And we are live. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Debrief Special Edition. I'm here with the J6ers. Guys, without any further ado, I know we got a lot of international people, but this is the United States of America. So I want to see a bunch of American flags in the chat and stand for the national anthem, and then we're going to get into the broadcast. Go ahead, Bills.
Please welcome from Italia, James Hetfield.
Welcome to the stream. The United States of America, the best country in the world. One flag policy over here. And I'm joined with three Patriots, guys. Welcome to the show. I'm happy to have you guys on.
Thank you for having us.
There was no other way that I could have done that intro with you guys here in the house. But for those that are unaware, can you guys please introduce yourselves? We can start with Pat.
Yeah, my name is Pat Stedman. I'm a dating and relationship coach for men and political prisoner. Spent a year at Fort Dix, New Jersey.
My name's Enrique Tarrio. I am the president of the local chapter here in Miami of the Proud Boys, and I was sentenced to 22 years, and just about a month and change ago, I was pardoned by the President Trump.
My name's Ethan Nordine. I used to be the president of Seattle chapter at Proud Boys, and I moved over here, and now I'm Vice City. We just did that.
Yeah.
Nice little remodel there. I was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. I spent 4 years in federal prison. I was released, not with a pardon, but a commutation. We'll get into that. That's some fun stuff. So.
Okay. And then, Gary, you were there that day as well?
Yeah, I was there. I'll never forget that day. I was at Trump's last speech in 2021 when he was president. And I saw a whole bunch of people, going down in the Capitol. And I was like, when the hell have we ever seen a revolution start with flags? And I just backed off.
Fair enough. So I guess we could kind of go through that day because I there's been so many different stories and narratives when it comes to January 6th and what happened. Obviously I look at you guys as political prisoners. When Trump came into office on January 20th, and one of the first things he did was pardon 1,500 guys. That's obviously very powerful, and it goes to show that there was some problematic situations with the justice system when it came to your guys' political persecution.
To say the least.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah.
Luckily we got Kash Patel in as director of the FBI, and Dan Bongino is his number 2 guy. So hopefully they clean house and get rid of some of these dickheads that use the justice system as weaponization.
Them up.
Okay, we can use dickhead in here.
Lock them up.
All right.
Yeah,
We're
the
good with that one.
weaponization of the Department of Justice was absolutely obvious, man, and everybody knows it. So I don't know who wants to go first, so they could kind of take us through their experience, because all you guys were at different places on that day. I mean, you weren't even there. We'll talk about that.
He was.
So I don't want to start off because you're like, oh, well, tell me what happened there that day. I'm like, well, I can't tell you.
We can start with whoever wants to go first on that day.
I'll go first, yeah.
Sure.
So I had a show after it started off around COVID, but after the election theft, it really started to kick off on Twitter using Periscope at that time, called COVID Cabal. And so I had a bunch of guys who were watching the show They came down to D.C. to meet me there. We were there at 5 a.m. We got in to see Trump's speech, got in at the very, very beginning of that, basically all the way in the front where the VIP stuff was, watched the speech. It was super delayed, which was kind of weird unto itself. I mean, we were waiting out there for the speech like well over an hour and a half beyond what it was supposed to be. But at any rate, speech ends, everyone's going down to the Capitol. Trump said, go down to the Capitol peacefully, patriotically protest, right? Yep. I'm heading down there. We find out on the way down there that basically Pence isn't going to be sending the votes back to the states. So everyone's a little bit pissed off. I'm getting to the Capitol, and I see people running from the Capitol screaming, and I can see smoke in the distance, and I'm asking these people, what's going on? They said the police started attacking us out of nowhere, and I'm already in a pissed off state. You know, I've already been kind of in like this like revolutionary agitating mode on my show, so I ran towards the Capitol. I saw that there was a crowd of people going in, flags, as Gary was saying, just flags as far as the eye can see. Gary probably picked up the right message from it, but I was really caught up in that fervor. And so I went in. I found out later on I was actually very close to I was in the group that Ashley Babbitt was in.
Yeah.
I didn't know who she was and I didn't see her, but I ended up going upstairs when we got to the basically the doors of the congressional chambers. I went upstairs. She kept going forward. And as I come back downstairs on the other side, I have these plainclothes police officers with guns pointed at me. They're like Secret Service looking people. I have no idea what's going on because when I was in the Capitol, the cops were really chill. So
they
it
let
was
you guys in, didn't they?
Well, they did. And this is the thing that's really confusing. I think, you know, as we hear the other stories, you know, it's Ethan's story and everything about how it was really different at different points. Like I heard that the police attacked people and I saw footage later on that they did. But then there was like a big stand down, I guess, because when I came into the Capitol, I thought that the police were actually with us. And this was in documented evidence in my trial. I had like text messages to people because they were like waving us through. They were just chilling. And then all of a sudden it was like...
Was this Capitol Police waving you guys through, right?
Capitol Police, yeah. And then all of a sudden it was like, we just shot one of you. Like it was really hard to understand and our emotions were getting thrown back and forth. So... soon after that, I was out of the Capitol.
Yeah. So after she got shot.
Yeah, I went and talked to a regular police officer afterwards. I said, you know, what the fuck is going on here? Why is this guy pointing a gun at me? Mm-hmm. And he said, a protester's been shot. You should head for the exit. And so I did. I sat in the rotunda for a bit.
Did you even hear the gunshot?
No, I didn't hear the gunshot, but when I came back around the corner, I could see that there was like tear gas all throughout the hallways.
Oh, shit.
Do you remember seeing Ashley Babbitt at all personally, or did you just realize this after when you viewed Discovery?
It was just at the trial during Discovery because I could see that I was in the same group as her, and even footage that they used that they got from her situation was used in my trial.
I think there's a lot of situations like that where it's kind of like a godsend. A lot of us didn't see it because just with the energy, a lot of us saw like grandmas and mothers that were getting attacked by these police officers. We're not practicing de-escalation tactics, rather escalation tactics. And so, I mean, in the heat of the moment, especially if you had a group of just men like all of us in one place and you'd seen an individual use lethal force as his first response, I think there would have been a very different reaction. And I mean, it's horrible that what happened to Ashley Babbitt happened, of course, but I'm glad that we weren't there because it would have been,
I think it would have escalated.
It would have been very bad.
Yeah, if Ethan or myself would have been there, it would have escalated.
It would have been very bad.
It was a bad shoot. I saw it. I saw the clip a bunch of times. We had Ivan Rakelin here, a constitutional lawyer. You know,
I was just on the phone with Ivan.
We were just on the phone. Ivan, shout out to Ivan. Good guy. I saw him at Mar-a-Lago as well. But we went over this in like detail when it came to, you know, what went down that day, the shooting. We watched it on video, which, by the way, if you guys are interested, go watch that episode if you guys want to see the legality of, you know, how these guys were politically persecuted. It was bullshit. But the long story short is when we looked at that shooting, it was like there was no justification for it. Like the officer's life wasn't in danger. She was behind the door. Like, I don't know what was going on. So
she weighed about like 110 pounds wet.
Yeah.
She had no weapons. Yep. Right. And this guy... no warning.
Did he get prosecuted?
He got pardoned.
He
did,
not.
Right?
Of course not. He got pardoned.
He got pardoned.
Biden pardoned
They've
him
actually
before.
protected him too. Yeah, he's been under protection.
So
he got arrested, but then Biden pardoned him on his way
He never
out.
got arrested.
Yeah.
They just pardoned him preemptively.
So he got indicted. Oh, preemptively.
Preemptively
Biden's
pardoned.
last day, they pardoned him.
Is that
Okay.
even illegal? A preemptive pardon, is that even legal? Because I've never even heard of anything like this before Joe Biden started doing
So
this
I
stuff.
looked into it.
Yeah.
It is legal,
Is
but they purposely, it's very vague in the Constitution. It's written in a very vague manner. So
it's about interpretation.
yeah.
So we don't know.
That whole section of the is very vague.
So in that case, the Supreme Court has to see if that's actually legal to do. They have to interpret it. That's the way this government works. The Supreme Court has to decide if they can preemptive pardon, and if they can't, Trump's coming for you.
I think that there's going to have to be some investigation of that or like litigation of that, because prior to Biden's last minute pardons, the only time you've ever seen a preemptive pardon was, or rather a blanket pardon, not even a preemptive pardon, was with Nixon in Watergate. And it was even that was very specifically oriented, said, okay, anything in these years related to Watergate. But Biden pardoned people like blanket pardon for things that they didn't even, there wasn't ever, so it's anything you did for 10 years.
Yeah,
it's completely,
for his son especially.
I don't know if that's constitutional personally.
Yeah, and his son wasn't just like a basic pardon, like, hey, I'm just going to pardon you for these offenses. He gave him a blanket pardon for, and I think it was like 10 years,
like
right?
10 years,
Until 2014.
10 years.
Which if you, it's all,
like
the
a
whole time in Burisma.
Dumpster fire of a
Not only his whole
situation.
time in Burisma, but we also saw like other Biden members get pardoned also, ones that we didn't even know existed. So there was something there.
Yeah.
Just the amount of times his genitalia was mentioned in the trial was hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean,
was
it's
great.
a dumpster fire of a situation, and just like, yeah, don't worry about nothing to see here.
I can blame
Blanket
Biden
pardon.
for a lot of things. I'm not going to blame him for pardoning his son.
Yeah, listen,
no, I agree with that.
You know
I got
what?
that.
You would have made
I
a great
can't-
Proud
I
Boy, to
can't
be
do it.
honest.
We know it's
As
gonna
a
happen.
father, as a father, that is your main goal in life,
Yep.
is to make sure that your kid is good.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that
Absolutely, and he's
has
going to join the
how
Proud
you do
Boys,
it.
I think, from what I understand.
Who?
Hunter, yeah.
I mean, he might be pretty good to party with. I don't know about the pedophilia, but he might be really good to party with. What was it that he said? Didn't he say he's like the person that has smoked the most Parmesan cheese in history?
I don't.
Because he thought he like dropped it on the rug and he thought it was the Parmesan cheese was crack. Yeah.
Wow.
That
It's in his
reminds me
book.
of,
The
yeah.
Biden family, man.
It's in
That's a
his
few
book.
people come to mind when I think of that, yeah.
Criminal and a degenerate in the same family.
So Pat, take me through. So after she got shot, you left. So how much time did you think you spent in the Capitol altogether?
I think it was like 44 minutes.
44 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I sat down in the rotunda for like probably about 8 minutes, and then I listened to his speech, and then they tried to clear everybody out.
You said when the police officer told you, hey, get out of this area, did you follow that order?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
Yep.
the prosecution tried to make it seem like I didn't, because even though I went to the exit, I sat down on a bench right outside the exit and just chilled for a little bit because I was tired. I'd been standing since like 5 a.m. I had a bunch of adrenaline rush. But I mean, when they started to clear out the area, like I just walked out with everybody else. Like there was no, the whole thing was a clown show.
It's crazy because, so you were in there, you said 44 minutes. I was in there for 27, didn't go past the rotunda. And I only went in there because my phones were dead, everything. I had no means of communication.
But you touched a fucking fence, you terrorist.
Yeah, I touched a fence, and that's a whole nother. We did a live stream when we were in DC, and I kind of showed people literally just touching a fence was enough force to give us terrorism enhancement.
Just to tell you, like my story on where I was on January 6th, I got arrested on January 4th for burning a Black Lives Matter banner, right? And I knew I was going to get arrested going into DC.
So 2 days prior.
2 days prior.
2 days prior.
But
you
I
get
knew I
arrested.
was going to get arrested. I went into DC knowing full well that I was going to get arrested. So what I planned is, that's why I bought my flight on January 4th. I'm like, okay, whatever. I get arrested on January 4th. Fuck that. I go to in front of the judge on January 5th. She bonds me out because DC's a no cash bail state, right? So I'm like, and then I'll go see the president speak on January 6th, which was our plan.
Yeah.
Right. And, the judge threw a wrench in my cog and is like, well, on top of bonding out, I am going to order you to get out of the district, which again bothered me a little bit. Right. But I didn't care. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter. I was just going to go see the president speak. It's cold as fuck. I'll just spend the day in the hotel. And when these guys are done watching the president speak, like, I'll just go meet them, or they'll come meet me because I can't be in the district, but they were in Virginia. That was my plan. So, but that wasn't what the prosecutor and the DOJ alleged.
Yeah, you were saying, yeah.
They alleged that I was the mastermind And I was responsible, and we were responsible for every single person that walked into that building, every single person that put their hands on a police officer. We were responsible for everything that happened that day. They called us the ultimate leaders of what happened that day on January 6th.
I think it
And
sounds pretty
actually
cool,
find
you know?
that I do find that very flattering.
Yeah,
And
we
it
sound
sounds
way cooler than we
cool,
really are.
and
Yeah.
it sounds like we're like some fucking Bond villains or some shit like that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I can't even say that because it's not true. That's not what we planned. What we planned is to go see the president speak. I had to go speak on 2 stages after the president spoke, and then we had in his Airbnb, we had the lead singer of the Misfits, Michael Graves.
Okay.
He was going to do like a little unplugged session for us.
Yeah.
So like, what did this jury think that we were going to overthrow the U.S. government at 1:00 and then go an hour and a half later across into Virginia and like listen to a concert? Like
We're
it sounds
pretty- yeah,
sounds
we're
cool as shit.
multitask,
They
you
make
know?
it sound so cool, dude.
Yeah. So, real quick, just going back to you with the
Yeah.
with the Pence thing, like, so would you say like everything started getting crazy once it was confirmed that Pence wasn't going to send the votes back to the states?
Well, I
He was
started
going to confirm the election results.
I started to see some tension in the crowd even before we got to the Capitol, just because, you know, I think all of us knowing that the 2020 election was stolen, this really seemed like the last opportunity without Trump declaring the Insurrection Act. It was the last opportunity for us to basically deal with the 2020 election fraud.
Yeah.
And so as it started to seem more and more like they're just going to try to push this through, they don't give a shit that there's too many million people here. I think people were starting to get a little bit angry, like and you know, agitated. Like there was a lot of love there too. Don't get me wrong. Like a lot of patriotism, a lot of prayers. Like people were united. But I think when you had those people with those emotions, and you had the police then start attacking, and it was like a powder keg
Yeah.
automatically.
Yeah, they were kicking the pit bull's cage.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, and the door was loose.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause
They
I
knew
don't
exactly
think-
what they were doing. They knew exactly
I don't think enough attention gets put onto Mike Pence for basically betraying the Donald Trump and the GOP in general for confirming that, because, you know, Democrats and liberals always say, the conservatives are conspiracy theorists with the election, but there's quite a bit of evidence that shows that at least it warrants an investigation
Right.
with,
Yeah.
you know, the election fraud that everyone
He just
suspects.
signed on it. He's a fucking coward. Is
Yeah,
what he is.
Pence,
He's
yeah.
a fucking
Well,
coward.
he represents a bigger problem with all
Established.
these
Yeah, well,
rhinos.
you
You know
know,
what I
You
mean?
saw him getting those
Just-
pieces of silver afterwards too.
Yeah.
Just like
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, there's a video of this right after he said that he pushed through the certification.
Yeah.
I think it was, I don't remember which Democratic politician, but it was one of the high-ranking Democratic politicians, gave him like 2 coins. Like it was like some sort of like symbolic gesture. It was really weird.
Yeah.
It was really weird. But you know, the thing, Myron, about what Mike Pence did that's so aggravating
Can you
is
explain
that,
it to the audience too? Because like a lot of people here might not be familiar with like politics and how our civic government works when it comes to certifying the election and stuff. Why this was such a betrayal? Because I really want people to understand how much of a piece of shit Mike Pence really is.
right.
But please.
Yeah, so you have the election. That's when the people vote. And then a month later, you have the Electoral College is basically supposed to vote based on what, you know, like the people did. Technically, they can do what they want, but that's, you know, typically how it goes. Then you have the final step before the actual inauguration, which is the certification of the electoral vote. Basically, Congress has all the electoral votes, and then they decide, okay, yep, the election's legitimate. We certify this, and now the different people can move forward to the presidency. Now, the issue with this whole thing was that you had 5 different states that the legislatures had sent separate slates of electors. All the swing states said, this is bullshit. A lot of the state senators said, this is bullshit. We need to have this investigated. Nobody was really asking Mike Pence to overturn the election. They were asking him to pause the certification and investigate the fraud in the swing states, like the state legislatures of those swing states wanted. That's why we were so pissed off. It wasn't like, oh, Mike Pence, you have the ability to overturn the election. It was like, no, man, just like slow things down a little bit so that we can all come together as a nation and find out what really happened.
Yeah, absolutely. That was really it. And everybody makes Trump out to seem like he was this dictator trying to steal the election. But really, it was just a matter of let's bring some transparency to the table because that's what we deserve. Obviously, there's enough Americans, which hasn't been properly represented by the mainstream media, that showed up. And when you see an event like this, especially a national event like this, when you see over 1 million people, that reflects a greater portion of the country because a lot of people don't show up for these things. But those people represent the ideals that a lot of other Americans want to portray. And so it was, I think a poll was taken, over 80 million people believe that the election was stolen. That's a huge number. That's not a
joke.
small,
That's low.
you know, crazy, extreme number of people that, you know, wanted to overthrow the election. This is a genuine, large, you know, portion of the population of America that believed genuinely that the election was stolen. And this individual, Mike Pence, was in a position to just bring some transparency to the table and couldn't do that.
Mhm.
Yep.
You know, it wasn't about forcing anything. It was just, hey, let's take a moment and see what happened. Let's look at the numbers.
And I'm actually going to pull up a lot of the reasons why people feel that it was fraud, because I wrote a whole thread on this, and we investigated it. And I mean, at the bare minimum, it warranted a thorough investigation, which they never did, by the way, which is ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, people think that people were just riding at the Capitol for no reason and they're going crazy. And it's like, dude, if you actually like look at all the facts and circumstances that led to the 2020 election, which was unprecedented times. People were locked up in their homes. We weren't able to really calculate who really showed up to vote or whatever. Was there, ID registration? No, there was a bunch of problems with it. On that day, what about you? Can you take us through what went down on that day from your perspective?
Yeah, so I had gotten there a couple days early. Obviously, Enrique had already explained what happened to him, and so I was given what the government calls war powers. So we're the Proud Boys, the undisputed leader on the ground for the Proud Boys.
Yeah.
A lot bigger, sounds a lot crazier than it really is. My prerogative, like my main, you know, objective was really to keep guys on the move and away from big crowds, because when I came to DC, it just, you could feel the aura. It was weird. It was off. And I've been on the, I grew up on the West Coast, and most of my Proud Boy career is on the West Coast. So I'm used to violence. I'm used to Antifa and crazy stuff getting wild. It wasn't that. It was like they wanted us to be there. You know what I mean? And so there's a different creepy feeling when you have that. And so I said, okay, instead of having just a point A rally point where we don't move and people gather to us, I wanted to stay on the move, to have a point A, point B, back to point A march away from the main crowds. So that we started out at the Washington Monument. We gathered there at 10 a.m. and we started the march down to the Capitol, simply to do hearts and minds, you know, kiss babies and give hugs and recruit, you know.
Shake hands and kiss babies. Let's clear that up.
Shake hands and kiss babies. You know, to all you weirdos out there, stop. But you know, just hearts and minds, you know, give people an understanding of who we really are, because obviously there's a lot of bullshit out there about who we are, and we're really just a bunch of good, you know, we're a little rugged around the edges, but we're good-hearted dudes. We want to show up, and honestly, for both sides, really, like, you know, if you're out there and you need some help and you're just trying to exercise your First Amendment right, like, we got you. You know what I mean?
What was the
and
Proud
if
Boys-
anybody fucking touches you, I mean, I guess that's where we get our rep from, right? So we've always been of the mind, like, we don't care if people scream at us or use a bullhorn or use a whistle. It doesn't matter. We consider that free speech. But when you put your hands on us or other Trump supporters,
yeah, it's over with.
It's over with, dude. It's over with. You know, we're not going to take it. And it's not because we're big and we're bad or anything like that. It's just like, it's a natural masculine instinct.
Called being men.
Well, you guys were like
it's being
sheepdogs.
men.
You guys were like sheepdogs for everything.
So that's why the media takes advantage of the Proud Boys. The mainstream media takes advantage of the Proud Boys, and they do this thing where they call us all sorts of names, like white supremacists.
Well, here's the thing.
Well, you're the leader. You're not even white. How are they calling you a white supremacist?
Dude,
I don't get this stuff. It's like that Zimmerman guy who was a white Mexican or something like that.
Everyone's a white
Why do they
supremacist.
always do this?
Nazi, white supremacists. They go through the whole array of
It's
things.
a
And you know
public
what?
divider.
I thank them for it. Because when people see, right, this podcast obviously has a video. Obviously, I'm not white. I speak better Spanish than I do English. Right there. Look at that. Look, that
You're
tone.
Dominican, right?
He really doesn't go in the sun
I'm
very much.
Cuban. I'm
Cuban,
Cuban.
okay.
Don't say
Okay.
Dominican
Oh, my
anymore. But
You're paler than I am. You
But
got,
the-
there you go. Real,
Put me next
that's
to
real
him.
white
That's
right
better.
there.
There we go.
shit, you're fucking transparent, dude.
That's the Scots Irish.
Is that racist to say that?
I
No.
don't think
All
so.
right. So,
Only in a democratic state.
yeah. But I thank them. I actually thank them for doing that, because I lean into it, right? Because they're like, "Oh, you're white supremacists." I let it roll. I don't answer. I let it roll, and I let people actually make up their own minds about us, right? Because we're not any of that. We're regular dudes. We're carpenters, plumbers, business owners. We're big on like business owners and small, opening small businesses and stuff like that. We're lawyers. We're ex-police officers,
We're everywhere.
veterans. We're everything. We're everywhere. You ever seen Fight Club?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You know, we're everywhere. We're
Like it.
everywhere.
And here's the thing, like the reason why we became so big, the reason why we ended up getting, mentioned on the debate stage from Trump himself, is because we were the only ones showing up when there was a problem, and everybody would sit on mainstream media, and everybody like, well, how dare these people? Somebody's got to do something, and everybody would just sit there and stare at each other and point at the problem while Americans were getting beat in the streets.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys remember the 2016-17 era of Portland and Berkeley and all that crap, and grandmas getting drugged through the streets just holding onto their American flags. We showed up and we beat the brakes off these people.
Yeah.
We make self-defense look like assault.
Yeah.
I think we.
I like that.
I mean,
put that on the shirt, bro, and start selling it.
I've always found it funny that these leftist organizations like Antifa, etc., they can practice ridiculous levels of violence, right? And they're still reluctant to call them domestic terrorists. They're burning BLM. They're burning cities down. They destroyed Minneapolis with the George Floyd protests. And, you guys, like, they went after you guys aggressively. I mean, we were talking about this before. What, 43% of the FBI workforce?
40% of the FBI workforce was dedicated entirely to January 6 investigations.
That's crazy.
And all the air marshals were.
yeah, human trafficking details that were focused on saving children from being trafficked were redesignated to focus on January 6th. Just think about that for a second.
Maybe that was part of the plan in the first place.
It is part of the plan. So they won't
Think
arrest.
about that.
Yeah.
So they won't arrest their own.
That's what your government's focused on right now.
Yeah.
But also
not
we
right now.
focus. Another thing is like we focus like on like local stuff. You know what I'm saying?
When was the Proud Boys established?
We were established in 2016, in May of 2016,
Okay,
as a joke.
right for the Trump stuff, right?
Right before Trump,
Yep.
right before Trump got elected. It was actually a joke on Gavin McInnes's podcast, and the joke kind of had this snowball effect. We went from, when I joined, there was like 150 Proud Boys in existence. I joined very, very early. Now we have tens of thousands of Proud Boys. It's an international organization. We have chapters everywhere: South Korea, Australia, Canada, Mexico, Argentina, Poland, Ukraine, Russia, which is crazy, and they get along.
Interesting.
And we have it's a pretty big organization.
Yeah.
That was
Chad,
started as a joke.
Just so you guys know, I'm gonna go because I was looking for the tweet, but I can't find it right now. But I'll go ahead and put a tweet for you guys below where like we outline everything that shows that the 2020 election is questionable at bare
best.
minimum.
Yeah.
Like literally, I think there's like 20 examples of potential election fraud there, and I'll put that link for you guys because I've talked about this ad nauseum. It's not like people were at the Capitol for no reason. Like it was bullshit, man. And Mike Pence had the chance to do something and he didn't do it. He's literally a traitor.
He's a traitor.
And I don't even know where he's at now, but
I think
Nowhere.
it also,
That's the whole point.
Nowhere, right?
Absolutely nowhere.
No, that's it. He's in hiding.
he's the definition of a rhino.
he
Republican in name
rebuilt-
only.
He rebuilt Biden's basement, and he's just sitting there.
Is it
That's
safe to say that Pence was Trump's biggest mistake?
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, you know
I
what?
mean, he was clearly a mistake. I think that the big question is, did the Republican Party force him to take Pence in the beginning? Because at the
They needed-
beginning,
they
yeah,
needed to.
I think he had no
needed-
choice. At that
Yeah,
time.
and I actually talked about this. I said a big reason why he ended up with like idiots like John Bolton and guys like
Yeah.
Mike Pence on his thing is because Trump actually, if you look at him, like he didn't think he was going to win. Like he
Yeah.
was actually
No, he
shocked
didn't.
when he won.
Yeah.
So when he won, this is a businessman out of New York City. He doesn't know anyone in D.C. So what ended up happening is when you come in as a president, you got like 4,000 jobs that need to be filled. So all these old GOP establishment guys just filled the void, and this is why Trump couldn't get anything done the first 2 years that he was in. And then that's why Project 2025 became a thing, was because they needed to bring in Trump loyalist guys that can actually get stuff done. Now look at how fast he's moving with getting things done with executive orders, putting people in position because he's already been through the rigmarole in D.C. So now he knows who to trust and who not to. But his first term, he literally just had to put establishment GOP shells and kind of rely on them, and he couldn't get shit done.
And that's what the 2020 election was in many ways like a total blessing for all of us. I mean, maybe not to us personally, but for the country, it certainly was.
We needed it.
We needed
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
We needed it. And, at the time on January 6th and even up to the inauguration, I was like, how is he just going to let him take it? How is he just going to let him steal the country? And then a few months later, I'm like, no, he made the right decision because we probably would have gone the Civil War if he had really fought against it. And now what happened is he gave him 4 years to be completely mask off. The most corrupt, fucking incompetent people in the planet running the United States, running it into the ground.
Yeah.
And because of that, The public woke up. Public's come together. Now we have a mandate for lasting change. We're going to wipe the communism off the face of this country.
Yeah.
Now, from what I understand, someone was telling me that Nancy Pelosi pretty much controls the Capitol Police, right? She's the main. She's like the main person.
She certainly did
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah. at the
And
time.
did she not? Did she tell them to pull back when Trump tried to send other reinforcements there?
Yes.
Or can you kind of go through it? Because I want to get it from people that were actually on the ground versus.
Yeah, well, Trump offered to send the National Guard in,
Yep.
and then they made numerous offers to send National Guard in. She turned it down every time.
Because she thought the Capitol Police could handle it.
Well, that's what she says.
That's what she
Yeah.
said.
But I think it's pretty the evidence is pretty clear, I think, circumstantially, that the whole thing was a setup.
Yeah.
You know, Byrd was connected to her directly. Byrd was one of he wasn't just in Capitol Police Officer Byrd is the one who killed Ashley Babbitt.
Yeah.
So there's some indications that he may have gotten the order directly from, like it came directly from Pelosi. Maybe not Pelosi exactly on the comms with
Her
him,
chief of staff. Or
but
something.
her chief of staff.
Yeah.
Like that was they wanted an example made.
And a lot of people don't know this. The Speaker of the House is the third most powerful person in the United
Correct.
States.
Yes.
After the
Correct.
Vice President,
That's it.
that's the next line of secession. A lot of people don't know that.
I'd
Honestly,
actually
I would say the Speaker of the House is more
more
Yeah,
powerful
more powerful
than
because he
the
actually does more
president.
stuff every day.
Yeah.
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 Has the
If-
purse strings.
Yeah,
if-
100%.
If that speaker is able to whip, up these votes and get people on the same page, it's a lot more powerful than the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Because some people forget it's Article 1 of the Constitution is actually the first thing that they thought of was the House of Representatives and the Senate, right? So although it's an equal branch, it is the most powerful branch because it is the people's
It's the
house.
people's house.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
Because they're
It's
supposed to
our
be like
reps.
the actual representatives of the people.
Yeah.
And the executive, it's in the word. Their job is to execute legislation,
Yep.
the will of the people.
Mhm.
He executes
Who
the
is
will of
the,
the people.
Who was the chief of police? I forget his name. I got a chance to talk to him.
Dunn,
in
was it
DC.
Dunn?
No,
Dunn son or something like that,
We
or-
talked to him,
Oh,
son or
yeah,
son
yeah.
or
So
something.
Yeah,
I got the chance to talk to him in DC, and he was telling me about how it took over 2 hours to get a response for the National Guard, right? And I was kind of just comparing, like, okay, what other event would this have been normal, or if any? And he said none. It was like, so
Chief of
anytime,
police for Metro PD,
No,
Washington,
for
D.C.
Capitol
Police.
Police.
Okay.
Yes.
right? So
He got
for that
fired.
request,
Yeah.
he got
Because
fired.
there's multiple police departments, like,
Yeah.
in D.C. especially. You got Metro,
You stand in
Washington,
a
D.C.
corner in DC,
Capitol
you could be
PD,
arrested
right,
by the
right,
FBI,
right.
Metropolitan PD,
Secret
Capitol
Service
Police,
is there.
U.S. Park Police.
Police, everyone is there.
Yeah.
So
I
sorry.
asked him, I asked him, how normal is it to get that kind of response? He's like, absolutely, it's out of bounds. Like if I ask for National Guard, they have a response team ready to go within probably 5 to 10 minutes of being there. They're ready to go. So for the fact that
sense.
he had to wait 2 hours and basically at the end of it get a no, he's like, it was something that I've never seen before, and it kind of speaks to the whole situation so that people kind of understand. This wasn't a matter of like things just got chaotic and out of control, and there's so many people that overwhelmed the police, and the people were just doing the best job. No, they spent 2 hours trying to do one specific thing to get National Guard in there, and people have a conflicting feeling. Well, if they needed National Guard, well, how are you guys the good guys? And it's just kind of like your side and our side kind of an argument. But really, the biggest thing that was lacking there was communication. There was no cops on bullhorns or loudspeakers telling us what they were going to do.
Yep.
Hey, this is a riot now. We're going to start firing non-lethals into the crowd. If you guys don't, they just started shooting people.
Yeah.
And
So
it
there
was
was no
just,
escalation. They didn't
there
tell-
was
like, they didn't say,
no
hey, get off the premises.
escalation.
They let you guys in, and then all of a sudden, then they say, hey, then they start shooting. And
Yeah, there was
in
a
his
brief
case-
time of escalation, right, where inside the crowd, people stormed the Capitol, and then it chilled the hell out. It was chill as all could be, and people were walking around. I walked into a door, like I got up to the
With a cop next to that door.
yeah,
And the
I
cops-
saw an entrance where everybody's going
That's
through a
exactly
window,
right.
and I'm like, I'm
Exactly
too well
right.
known, not a good idea. So I see this other entrance with like 10 cops outside, and they're holding up a door. I'm like, I'm going over there, and that's exactly what I did. It's on video and everything. And it's like in that moment as a civilian, how are you supposed to know that that's not okay?
yeah.
There's no
Especially when they let you in.
signs. I mean, it's their job to tell you if it's not okay or not.
Yeah.
It's a public building, so if it's restricted, it is their job to let me know that. There's no signs that say this is a restricted area, and so you know.
now we know. I didn't realize that much of the FBI workforce, which by the way, just so you guys know, about what 35,000 employees at the FBI, 40,000, something like that. The biggest federal law enforcement agency in the country.
35,000 too much.
Something like that. So
Oof.
and so take me through. Did they actually arrest you, or did you turn yourself in?
No, they arrested me. My arrest
Take
warrant.
me through that day.
Yeah. So my arrest warrant was signed in 3 hours in the Biden's presidency.
What?
Yeah. So
Wow.
He's a big name. That's
yeah,
why they went
I-
after
okay.
him.
my show was doing
So
really well.
January 20th, you're an arrest warrant. He swears in, and you're
There's
already
3 hours later, arrest warrant signed. The next morning, the FBI comes to my house, picks me up.
wow.
So I was under persecution every single day of that administration.
Okay.
Did they give you bail?
In the beginning, because they didn't have the strategy, I think, put together yet. I just got initially 2 petty misdemeanors. I know I didn't even have any firearms. Like they had no
And they bumped you
rationale to be able to do it. It was a local judge. So I kind of like slipped through the cracks a bit. And then June came around and I got superseded with the Class A misdemeanors and the 1512 obstruction of an official proceeding felony, which about 350 other J6ers also got. That felony was absolutely crazy.
So just so I have the timeline right, so
Yeah.
because this is another thing too that I had a problem with the FBI with, right? As a guy that used to do these investigations, the federal government, 1811 special agents, should not be wasting time on fucking misdemeanors.
Yeah.
So like the fact that they even put this much resources into misdemeanors is like unparalleled. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
Only the FBI would do something so stupid. So January 20th, FBI shows up at your house for misdemeanors.
21st, yeah, or more into the 21st.
The
yeah.
21st, they show up at your house 6 o'clock in the morning. Where were you at the time? Like what state? Like,
South Jersey. Yeah.
South Jersey. So they show up. Did they knock your door down, or did they?
Well, so I actually
Because
gave
it's a
him.
misdemeanor warrant, so it's like
I gave him the spook because I'd actually gone for a walk. I don't know if I had a premonition or something that night, but I was just like, I gotta like something's not right. I went like early in the morning, went out for a walk.
Yeah.
And my wife calls me crying at like 7 a.m. She's like, the FBI's here, and the FBI agent goes on the phone. He's like, where the fuck are you? I'm like, I'm just in town. Like I'm over here. Like stay where you are. We're gonna come to get you right now. There were cop cars all over the small town.
Wow.
They called the police departments from like the 5 neighboring towns.
Yeah.
It was like a manhunt situation to try to get me.
wow.
Absolutely insane.
And for a misdemeanor, because I don't think they could kick your door in for a misdemeanor warrant. Like,
No.
I don't think they can.
And
So-
fortunately, they didn't kick the door in. I know
Yeah.
that they did that to a lot of J6ers. They
Well,
didn't
we
do
know
that
a lot
to
of
me.
things that they couldn't do.
Yeah.
Did you have any prior criminal record or anything? bro?
0.
See, this is what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
it's crazy.
This is what I'm talking about.
So-
A guy who has no record whatsoever, and they go after him like this.
So okay, so you get arrested. They bring you in probably that morning for initial appearance.
Yeah.
And then you get a bond, right?
Yeah, I have arraignment and I get a bond. I can
Okay.
go out.
And then you said they did a superseding indictment, and that's when they finally hit you with felony charges. And you said this was 6 months later.
About 5-6 months later. It was mid-June. I got
Okay.
hit with that. And the
And
15.
then did they come into your house again and like kick the door in this time? Or?
No. Everything, because I was already on bond. It was just a superseding indictment, basically.
And
So-
they told your lawyer, I'm assuming, and they said, hey, you got to turn yourself in.
no, I didn't get put in prison then. I was in pretrial release
Of
all
course,
the way
of
up.
course.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like when they did a superseding indictment, they had to bring you in front of a judge again.
It was a Zoom meeting. I think that's why I'm. yeah.
Okay.
There
And
was,
this is 2021, so this makes sense.
Yeah,
Lockdowns
yeah.
are still going on, etc. So they said, hey, you've been indicted. Your lawyer probably called you, and then you went to okay.
correct. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. So then what happened from there? So like you took it to trial, right?
I did take it to trial. Yeah.
Okay, can you take us through that?
Yeah, for sure. So that was in June 2023, and that was a crazy experience. I mean,
So 2 years later, roughly.
yeah, we kept trying to delay. So this is actually a little interesting thing to add in here. So I had Judge Sullivan at first, and he was a really lazy. I'm not saying he was like a good judge or anything like that, because none of the DC judges were good judges.
Was this out at like what the Southern District of New Jersey or something? Or
So I
No.
got arrested in New Jersey, but everything got transferred to DC,
DC,
like
yeah.
immediately.
so did you have to go to DC to go to trial?
For trial, yes. In the beginning, though, everything was Zoom hearing because of the COVID
Of course.
stuff. So I had Judge Sullivan at first. He actually seemed kind of amenable to have things kind of get kicked down the road. So there was a lot of can kicking with this over.
Perfect, yeah.
My prosecutor got transferred, so I had a new prosecutor, had to start the process over. In the fall of 2022, at this point, you had the initial stuff with Fisher, with the Fisher case. And this is kind of relevant when it comes to the 1512 felony. Do you mind if I digress a bit on the 1512?
Yeah, please explain it to the people because 18 USC 1512, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
please explain it. To
So
them
the 1512 felony is called obstruction of an official proceeding. It goes back to the Enron era, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, and basically Enron was destroying documents and trying to impede their the investigation of Enron officials. right? And there was some like loophole in the law
This was
where
like in the 80s, right? The
early
No,
2000s,
early
early
2000s.
2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was this whole thing like loophole in the law basically where they could be destroying these things or they I don't know whether it's that they couldn't destroy it, but basically the bottom line is that it was the whole law was about witness tampering and document destruction, and you basically have a 20-year felony if you do it to impede a proceeding.
And that's what they hit you with.
Well, so there's a subsection that says or otherwise obstructing an official proceeding. And so they took this law, which is about financial crimes,
Yeah.
and they applied it to basically anybody who they wanted to, who went into the Capitol or even didn't go into the Capitol, right?
Yeah, it didn't matter.
You know,
at
it
this
didn't really
point.
matter.
So literally,
it was so vague. They could
everyone
stretch
got
it.
hit with a charge.
That was their go-to felony,
Yeah.
right?
So all of you guys got hit with the same.
Everybody got
15-12.
hit. So when that Fisher ruling came in, it affected us all.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. So pretty much the government was trying in the beginning, they were trying to restructure how they prosecuted the cases so they could make it stick.
Yeah.
And then since the judges were throwing them out, I think they kind of just gave up on it. At
Also,
that point.
some judges were throwing out this 15-12.
Yeah, if the Supreme Court's telling you, hey, this doesn't apply,
Yeah.
right? And then you as a judge is like, well, fuck you, Supreme Court. Like we're gonna do whatever we want. No, they were throwing it out. I know a whole bunch of judges that would have wanted for it to stick.
Interesting.
But they used it. That was like the cookie cutter felony in order to get anybody. Like if you trespassed into the Capitol, like all you did was really just walk in, like they did, or
Yeah.
I can't say it because I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Then that was a felony that you got hit with, and usually people that were louder, people with like a podcast,
Yeah, I was shouting in there too. They didn't like that.
or people like that had a bigger following. That's what they did to make an example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyone
Right.
that had a platform, an audience of some kind, they went after you guys
You're,
first.
you're done.
That's 100%.
You're
If you were
cooked.
if you were in Proud Boys, Oathkeepers, 3%ers, if you had a big social media platform, those were grounds basically to throw the book at you to go after you.
I saw you on
cooked,
Yahoo
sure.
News.
Yeah.
I saw you on Yahoo. They went after you quick, bro.
Yeah. No, they were really.
Well, I mean, the day after Biden is
Bro,
sworn
this
is crazy.
This is insane.
That tells me just
Vindictive
putting on
agenda.
my investigator hat. They had the warrants ready to go. They just
They
waited
did.
until he was
Yep.
sworn in.
Yep.
New USA comes in. All right, well let's push this
That's
through now.
100% right.
They had everything ready to go.
They
They
used
just
the
waited for the new
FISA.
USA to come in.
Yeah, because they were having the hearings for Merrick Garland before Biden was sworn in.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, the Attorney
So-
General, and then also the other thing too is that the United States Attorney. A lot of people don't know this. That is a presidentially appointed position. The United States Attorney
Yes.
presides over that entire area and
That
takes all the
district.
cases. So they want
His name was Matthew Graves. there in
boom out of
DC.
Washington D.C.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Graves. Yeah.
Yeah. So that guy got appointed by Biden. He comes in. All right, let's go get them all now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real piece of
So
work.
so you go to trial.
Yeah. So in the
That
fall.
must have been nerve wracking. No one goes to trial. So like, take us through that, man.
Yeah. So in the fall of 2022, we kept trying to do this delay because of the Fisher case because it was
Yes.
going to the appeals court. And the judge gave us another delay. The
Okay.
prosecution was now really angry about this. You could see. And it was really convenient for them because over the weekend, like I had the hearing on a Thursday, and then my lawyer calls me on Monday and he says, "You have a new judge now."
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, what are the fucking odds of that?
You had a district judge, right?
It was a federal.
Magistrate for the misdemeanors, then it go to a district judge for the felony.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
had Judge Sullivan at first. He was happy to delay it, and then I get transferred to Beryl Howell, who's very
Ooh, that's
Wasn't
very
that
harsh
your-
and
That's
very
what I had
initial
originally.
judge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's actually was under 2 congressional investigations, one for collusion with the Justice Department,
Oh,
and another
shit.
one for bias, basically. So
Wow. And she was still on the bench.
She's a big advocate, activist judge that is anti-Trump, openly anti-Trump. That she should have never taken. A lot of these judges should have never taken these cases.
Okay, holy shit.
Huge
Let me
conflict
get
of
this.
interest.
Let me get this straight. So, in every district, there's a couple of district judges, depending on how big it is. You guys all got indicted out of the District of
Yes,
Columbia.
we had the
Yeah.
same. I think it's 12 judges that operated out of DC. I think
that's
it's somewhere
right.
close to
So
Yeah,
that.
around
12
that.
judges. Would it be fair to say that all 1,500 people from the January 6th event basically got one of those 12 judges?
yeah,
Yeah, basically,
Essentially,
yeah,
yeah.
that's exactly what it is. All those. If you were a J6er,
Yeah.
you're going to be charged in DC.
exactly.
And if you're charged in DC, these are the judges.
And are all of them left leaning pretty much?
And you
I mean,
yes.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
assuming
Some
all
rabidly, some rabidly.
So
some,
here's another
but
thing.
not one of them is right wing.
No.
Well, here's
Oh,
a
God.
confusion with some people. Some people, the media picks this up. They're like, oh, well, these are Trump appointed judges. Well, even if they're Trump appointed judges, that's not how the appointments work, right?
Yeah.
There's a committee that goes and says, hey, these are the judges that we're recommending, and the president just
And
basically
we talked about
sends
this
up.
in his first administration. Yeah, he
Yeah.
put them in because he doesn't know anybody.
He doesn't know.
He relied on establishment GOP deep state motherfuckers that have been there forever. He relied on them to make the appointments. So a lot of them probably might not even align with him politically.
I mean, what we're seeing now is a different administration. Like my Pat just said, it is important that the election in 2020 was stolen, right? Because it was a learning experience for him too.
Yeah.
We're seeing a Trump that we would have never saw in 2020.
Right.
We're seeing a country and a culture shift that we would have never seen, if that didn't happen. That was supposed to happen. That was God sent,
Yeah.
Well,
right?
I'll tell you this.
So now
ahead.
nothing that the president does comes out of his office. I mean, it doesn't leaves his office. So when we'll give you a perfect example, pardons are usually done by the Department of Justice, by a small group of prosecutors that decide who gets a pardon, who doesn't.
At the end of the term.
Yeah. So in the president's case, no, he went
did it
ahead
first
and he appointed a pardon czar, which is that woman that did 21 years for marijuana. She was pardoned by the president back
Okay.
in 2019.
Okay.
So he appointed her. So everything goes through his office. He's not micromanaging, but he's using his people the right way now.
Yeah.
So that's something that's big
Well,
in the
I
administration.
think that kind of speaks to the whole pardon issue, that a lot of people are up in arms, and I've been kind of sitting back because I didn't receive a pardon.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about
whereas
that next.
This idiot next to me did.
You got
like,
a
right away.
commutation. if you could explain the difference between a commute, and then we'll come back to you with the
Yeah,
trial, 'cause
yeah,
I want to
yeah.
hear about that.
Yeah.
The commutation versus a pardon.
So with the pardon, you can still see that you have had a conviction before, but everything's sealed, right?
Mhm.
And you're able to go probation free. You're gone. You're done.
Yeah. None of your civil rights are violated. You can carry a gun.
carry your
You don't
gun.
lose your ability to Second Amendment, all that.
Right.
Yep.
Yes.
Commutation is you've served your sentence, but you still have to do probation.
Mhm.
So when I got back,
You got
think-
sentenced to how? What was
I got
it?
18 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got 18 years.
Second best.
First,
For 15,
If this
12?
is competitive, I'm
no,
first.
for this. Well, seditious conspiracy was the charge that we got. That was the big bad.
Okay,
finale.
so you guys both got hit with 371.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, 2384.
2384,
is what I got tattooed right here.
which is sedition.
Sedition.
Oh, so they didn't even hit you with the normal conspiracy.
No, they went.
we got
ham.
everything. We got all of
They dusted off the books on
Yeah.
the Civil War
I've
era
never
law.
seen that. I was gonna say like
Yeah.
normal. It's
It hasn't
18
been
USC
charged,
371
yes. It's the Civil
conspiracy.
War.
Yeah.
Yeah.
General one. That I've never even seen that. one.
Seditious conspiracy. It's actually the only felony that has the conspiracy laid out in the law itself. That's above just conspiracy.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it basically tied to political conspiracy?
So what it is so just to tell you what sedition is. Sedition was the British made this law back in the 1400s where they couldn't charge somebody with treason, right? So they made another law called sedition, and it was really they were jailing their political opponents with it.
Okay.
Now fast forward into the Civil War. It was actually before the Civil War. John Adams passed this thing called the Seditious Acts, and it was actually rendered unconstitutional 2 years later, and it went away. After the Civil War, they needed a way to punish the rebel army, right, coming back, and they needed a law, and they couldn't charge them with treason, so they brought back this sedition, which is what we see today as the 18 USC 2384.
Wow.
Right, and that's really. It's hardly ever used because it's a very high bar, but
Yeah.
it didn't matter in DC because the most important thing you wanted to ask him about the trial.
Yeah.
The trial doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because the jury
Yeah.
pool. Anybody who went to DC and went to trial lost that trial on the first day.
First day, we are all
Right?
guilty.
Because when you go to jury selection and 14 people that are residents of DC,
Yeah.
DC is the most left-leaning district
is.
by far
Worst.
in the country. 93% voted for Biden,
Well, not just
and
that,
4%
they're
voted for
activists.
Trump.
Yeah.
They're lefty
It's a-
activists.
Yes.
Not only that, I mean, Kamala Harris won Washington D.C. That should tell you everything you need to know.
I mean,
Like,
I don't
yeah,
think,
she got like 90% plus
Yeah.
of the vote in the last election.
I don't think that there's. I gotta
Somebody in
look
our
that
jury
up. But see,
who was being looked at for a jury. She didn't want to put us in prison. She wanted
to put us under the prison.
That's what she
And
said.
she almost got put in the jury.
Yeah.
And then the foreman, we protest. The Proud Boys
So that's
pride
what we were
themselves
dealing
in
with.
protesting that drag queen story hour shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Proud Boys have never stopped protesting that, and it's events in D.C. while we were going to trial, right? That the Proud Boys were protesting in the District of Columbia. Guess who the foreman of our jury was? He is the guy who organizes Drag Queen Story Hour.
Oh man.
So
Yeah.
anybody who went to trial did the smart thing and the courageous thing to do, right? But it was also
It was 6 months
It was
long.
impossible to win.
It
So
was 6
your
months
trial
long
was
of
one
hell.
day.
No, it was a week.
It was
a
okay.
week. It started on my birthday, actually, June 5th,
Ooh.
2023.
What a happy birthday
I
that
had
was.
jury
I remember.
selection. And then the next 2 days were them showing footage of all sorts of other things that happened on J6 that had nothing to do with me. They're like my lawyer would go and say, was Mr. Stedman present for this? Like to the witness. The witness said, no, I never saw him. Yeah, he wouldn't have been able to see this. And we're like, how the fuck was this even allowed in the
How
trial
did
to
that become
begin
a
with?
government exhibit? Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. So we protested this in the motions.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Before the trial.
Yeah, before the trial, and we were denied on it. Basically, we said, look, if the prosecution is going to show evidence of things that Mr. Stedman wasn't present for, then we can show, other evidence of things that Mr. Stedman wasn't present for that might defend him, like the
Yeah.
police attacking the protesters.
Of course.
And they said, no, the government can use whatever they want to set the context, but you can only show what you saw. So it was automatically from the beginning completely weighted against any
The
reasonable.
scope was unbalanced.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
impossible.
if you're a jury, even if you weren't a DC jury,
Yeah.
right, that was super biased from the start, you used to have 2 days straight of watching people riot and throw things and like I didn't do that, but like that's what they showed them for 2 days straight. Does that
gonna
not
bias
bias?
them? Yeah, that's gonna bias them immediately.
Yeah.
What the? Okay,
Yeah.
so this is crazy. So going back to this sedition charge, which
Yes.
I've never seen it. It's probably never been charged in modern times.
Actually, it was charged one time by a Puerto Rican national back in the 50s that literally bombed the Capitol and killed people with guns in the Capitol. And she was charged with sedition, amongst other things. Yes.
Wasn't she pardoned by
She was
that
pardoned.
pardoned
And
by-
she was pardoned
She's
by
pardoned by
President,
Clinton.
I believe Clinton or
Yeah.
Obama.
It was
Yeah,
Clinton.
Oh, of course.
In the 50s, she did this.
The
Oh, so
Democrats.
this
In the
must,
50s.
th-
Yeah,
this
of
must
course
have
the
been when the
Democrat
FBI
Party.
was
Yeah, yeah.
spying on Puerto Ricans, right? This
Yes.
was that era.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, because there was a lot of Puerto
There's
Rican
a-
revolutionaries that
There's a
didn't want
bigger
to.
story there, yeah, with that.
Gotcha.
We had the longest trial in DC history, the longest.
So you both
going
went to trial too.
Yeah, this is not only my brother. This is also my
Co-defendant?
co-defendant. There's 5 of us.
I was number 1 on the indictment, just so you know. He loves when I say that.
I
He
was
does.
number 1.
Yeah, normally
He's the
the
mega
number one
mind.
is,
You guys-
is the top guy.
Stop,
Yeah.
stop.
guys
Hey,
had
can we
Normally.
take
Let's
this?
go.
Mute
This
this.
guy right
Mute his mic, please.
You guys had the only like co-defendant because none of the J6ers were usually co-defendants, but you guys were all actually
We were all
co-defendants.
co-defendants. We
Yeah.
went to trial for 6 months.
That was a
Every
crazy.
That was
day,
hell.
wake up at 4:00 in the morning. You get put in chains. You get put in the bus. You get an hour drive every day for 6 months.
And you get a bologna
sandwiches,
sandwich. Oh.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So that let me take. Okay.
Psychological warfare.
Yeah.
So I gotta go through this with you guys. So okay. So when were you guys indicted?
Well, they were indicted in January of 21. They took a whole year to come pick me
So
up.
same with you guys. You guys got indicted basically, or arrest
Right
warrants
away.
filed just like Pat immediately. You guys are getting
from
arrested.
what I
the 21st.
understand, the superseding indictments were like ready to go before they had any evidence against us at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which
So-
is not legal, from what I
Yeah.
understand.
So you get arrested where in California or
in Seattle.
okay?
Yeah.
Thank God.
So you're
you
there.
said
Take
that.
us through that day. Like
He looks like a Californian.
take us through that day when they picked you up.
Well, I was actually out with the boys at a meetup, and these idiot feds didn't know I wasn't home. So they kicked down my door. They threw flashbangs. They held my wife at gunpoint.
Wow.
Just massive. Like, I don't know how many agencies were involved, but we're talking. I mean, there was a tank in my front lawn.
What?
A tank.
Well, they're like right. You
They
know,
probably
like
spent their
the
yeah,
SWAT
they
tank.
sent, they
you know
sent
what I
their
mean?
Yeah.
SRT probably.
I had 2 tanks.
Yeah.
God damn,
Yeah,
bro.
they have these like
I mean, they broke in my door. There's flashbangs, like burn marks all over my carpet, still to this day.
wow.
And they held my wife at gunpoint, arrested her without reading her rights or Miranda rights or anything.
She got arrested too?
Well, detained her. So
Okay,
they put her
okay.
in cuffs for hours.
Okay.
And we're interrogating her for passwords for my laptop. And so I get a call. I'm hanging out with the boys, right?
Yeah.
And hey, the FBI's here. And I was anticipating this. You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, cool. I was like, let me talk to the head agent. I talked to the guy. He's like super chill with me. You know what I mean? I'm like, hey man, what's going on? What am I being charged with? I'm not away right now. Oh, where are you? When are you going to be here? Just, hey, look, man, I'm coming. Okay. I'm not, I'll turn myself in. I just need to know what's going on. What am I being charged with? Because at the time I had no idea. There's no way that I would ever have thought that we would have ended up being charged with what we got charged with. Yeah. I'm thinking I might be in jail for like the weekend. They might try and question me and say, oh, fuck yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not talking to you lames. That didn't happen. Within the 4 years that I was locked up in all of trial, I was never asked a single question by a single government, anything. And I was, unlike Enrique, well, I guess.
Oh, here we go. Get the fuck
I love getting him in shit. But so on the ground, I was leading the Proud Boys, and there was no communication between any of us guys and Enrique, right? So he creates this plan, and I'm acting it out with the guys allegedly.
That's what they alleged in the indictment.
So if anybody knew what the actual plan was on the ground that was leading this insurrection, it would have been me.
Yeah.
And I was never asked one time by a prosecutor, by an FBI agent, nothing, not even an attempt. Hey, what happened that day? And I never got a chance to speak to anybody. My lawyer didn't think it was a good idea to go to testify just because of the bullshit that they were doing,
of
just
course.
Character assassination, and they limited our scope so much.
Yeah.
That it was just, we were so constrained. It was just like, look, let's just get to the.
So you're there on what he's asking. So that the bureau agent is telling you, hey, turn yourself in, or where you at, right?
Right.
And you're in Seattle. They're in Seattle as well.
Yeah. So I'm heading back. It took me about an hour drive. I'm hanging out with the boys all night, and the guy's like, "Look, just turn yourself in at 2. Come home, take a shower, whatever." I'm like, "Okay, cool, man. Sounds good." I pull up, and I've got lasers all over my body, just like I'm like afraid to even put my car and park.
Yeah.
And they're all yelling at me, and I got rifles all on me.
So you pull up, and then you as soon as you pull up, like your car.
I can
surrounded.
see my hands. I can see my chest. I'm just red dots.
You're surrounded as soon as you show up.
Yeah. And so I didn't move. I didn't even want to put the car in park because I'm like, I'm not going to move. And so finally the cop comes up to my window and like, hey man, you need to get out of the car. I'm like, I need to put the car in park. I'm not trying to run you all over, and then you guys have a reason to shoot me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Good thinking.
And so he's like, "Okay, do it."
So your foot is on the brake, just sitting there. Yeah.
I'm not moving an inch until they give me permission to put the car in park, and they cuff me. They bring me in the house. I kind of get in their face a little bit because I'm like, at this time we're really battling Antifa in the streets, and nothing's being done to them, and they're coming to my house and treating me like a terrorist.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, you guys do all this for us, and you don't even acknowledge that Antifa or these other entities exist. I mean, how many of these guys' doors you knocking down? You know what I mean?
Never. None.
Zero.
BLM never gets arrested. Bro, it's ridiculous.
They get medals.
Well, Tim Kaine, right? The vice presidential candidate for Clinton. His son was an Antifa.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
certainly interesting, with all this money Doge is taking away from the funding, how many Antifa aren't showing up lately.
We did a last week we did a presser in DC to announce that we're suing the DOJ for violation of civil rights plus.
Yeah, sure.
All the
and
things.
if we had like 3 screamers there. Some people with bullhorns.
The banshees.
We had like 3 banshees, like 3 liberal,
Antifa people talking shit.
Liberal, crusty white women that are like,
of course,
4'9".
Yeah.
No problem. I got no problem. If we would have done that back in 2020 or 2019, we would have had like hundreds of Antifa. So it's kind of like we just got pardoned.
Yep.
And we came out into like this crazy multiverse that we didn't expect that you guys built.
Yeah.
We were locked in, that you guys built while we came out. The culture has shifted so much that shit isn't cool anymore.
Yeah.
Going out in the street and assaulting Trump supporters isn't cool. I also want to thank my boys, right, for doing that, because I think that was a big portion of it. Every time they came out, we fought back. But the price that we paid,
of course,
right, was January 6th. I paid 22 years of my life. He paid 18. You paid a year. Joe Biggs paid 17. Zachary Real paid 15, and Dominic Pizzola paid 10. Those are my.
And you would have got a lot more if it wasn't for Trump.
Yeah. I mean, they hit
I would have
before.
been there right now if it wasn't for Trump. He saved my fucking life. He saved all of our lives.
Yeah. And see,
right? We would have rotted there.
This is why I don't want anyone telling me it doesn't matter who you vote for. This is proof right here. It matters who you vote for. These innocent political prisoners would have still been in jail if Harris was president. It's a fact.
I mean, this is a dating podcast and male self-improvement, but obviously when I saw what was going on in 2024, I was like, no, we got to get Trump in, man. Like, this is beyond just getting some bitches. Like, this is going to be very problematic if Kamala becomes president of the United States. And obviously, you know, we made sure to campaign and push and say, guys, you got to get out there and vote Republican and vote Trump.
Well,
so I'm glad that it worked out. And we, too big to rig, baby. Like, we won in a landslide.
Exactly what I said.
Which was great, you know. And
I remember that night when that was the day that I was free, right? Trump pardoned me on January 20th, 2020. A lot of people don't know this. So he took his oath of office at noon, right? And everybody was waiting till 5 o'clock because that's when he was going to sign all the executive order and the pardon. So all you guys that were watching on TV, right? Everybody was like, okay, that's when he's going to sign the pardons. Bullshit. At 1:30 p.m., there was already emails and faxes from the administration to the Bureau of Prisons that told him, you better prepare to release these guys today.
Yep.
He said, and I'm going to quote him, I will release them in the first 9 minutes of my presidency.
Yep.
And that was 100% true. Promises made, promises kept.
Have you talked to the president?
No, I haven't.
Gotcha.
So back to your. So you're there. They got you handcuffed at the house. They got you handcuffed at the house. What happened after that? Like they just took you in, and you didn't. You obviously probably invoked your right to not speak to them, or.
I kind of just, I don't know. Yeah, I just had no experience with the feds prior to this at all, and so I'm thinking again that this is going to be one of those interrogation systems. Let's just get it over with, right?
Yep.
And it's just kind of going back to that time frame. It's just kind of wild. Like it really feels like we've been just in this long dream since we've gotten let out.
4 years.
And thinking back on it, it's just like it's the mindset that I had was just so much different. And what I've learned from the feds, you know, these guys, you can't trust them, and they want to be your buddy. They want to, you know, hey, it's all good, bro. We understand. You know, we're just doing our job.
It's called minimizing. That's what they do.
Yeah, and you know what? I hear it from the marshals. I hear it from the COs. I've heard it from local police, and I'm just kind of sick of this. Hey, you understand, man? I'm just doing my job thing.
Yeah, you should be fired.
You should be, and you should feel a sense of guilt that you're cuffing up innocent people and taking them from their families. And a lot of people don't realize like the scope of this issue isn't just like us, you know, directly, specifically the guys who experience this head on. It's our families, it's our friends, it's our businesses that got shut down and the employees that lost their jobs because of it and their families. And like this is a huge ripple effect of a problem that happened. And there's several thousand of people. There's only, I think, like 260 that were locked up, right? So I think there's less than 100 that are locked up since like day one. Mm-hmm. Like when we got arrested originally, I got arrested like early February 2nd.
Again with the first thing.
Number one.
So you got arrested February 2nd.
But
okay.
There's you know, there's a lot of people that were going through this the entire time. And it's insane to me. And I think everybody else, if you really think about this, one man was our savior. We couldn't rely on anyone else. There was no other leader in our country. Well, you know, God was obviously the one getting all this organized, and that's why I believe so much that Trump was going to get elected. I saw him they tried to kill him, they tried to bankrupt him, they tried to do everything they could, and I can't explain how in my mortal brain how that's possible unless there was something supernatural,
divine intervention.
Backing. Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's just it's impossible. We've never seen anything like it before.
And a lot of people forget, like when you're in prison, right? Because I only did. I don't want to say only, but I did 3 years.
Yeah.
You know, they did 4.
And you guys were locked up the whole time, right?
The whole
like
time.
You never got bond.
We were in solitary confinement the whole fucking time. Wow. I did 3 years of solitary confinement in 40 different prisons. They had me on what's called diesel therapy.
40 different prisons?
40 different prisons.
Wow.
Prisons, county jails, and federal holdovers. Yeah. They do that to you so you won't be comfortable in one place, and you're it's solitary confinement. You're by your fucking self. No noise. hardly any
No
time
rec.
that communication, no rec or anything.
Why did they
like that.
put you guys? Because I'm assuming you guys didn't ask for it. They just put you in solitary confinement just because of the nature of your
well,
charges.
Yeah, because the charges are akin to that of terrorists, so they had to treat us differently
With the sedition charge.
with the sedition charge.
Not you were.
no.
Oh no, but you were in for a year, right? Like,
Yeah, I was sentenced to 4 years.
Okay.
But I only ended up serving a year because the Supreme Court overturned that 1512 felony midway
Gotcha.
through my sentence.
Gotcha.
But what was
Was you were in Gen Pop, or did they isolate you too?
I was in general population.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the sedition charge, they pretty much treat you
Sedition
like a
charge.
terrorist.
I was put in the same category, and they were too. We were put in the same category as El Chapo.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
The same method
An
of
enemy of the state,
transportation.
basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I actually remember when we were in Alexandria, the plane bomber guy, he like bombed a whole airplane over Africa and like killed like 300 and something people.
Okay.
He wasn't even at our level.
Wow.
Like when we came out of our cells, they had to shut down the entire floor. There couldn't be any more inmates out on the floor. So it was crazy, but this is where what I was saying is you get used to that.
Mhm.
You know, one gets adapted. It's the nefarious thing about this whole situation is how easily somebody, like, that's life,
Mhm.
right? The people who suffered more than we did was our families.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, because
100%.
they're out here fighting every day. My mom was crying every day. My wife was crying every day. And the people that did that to them, those people need to pay.
Yeah.
And what I mean by they need to pay is I want accountability.
Yeah.
I want investigations. If we were to do investigations, we're going to find a crime. And if we find a crime, they need to be prosecuted. If they're prosecuted, they will be found guilty. And if they're found guilty, they need to be put in a concrete box exactly like we are. I'm not here to play games. I'm not here to be the bigger person. They need to be put in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And I just wanted just to add to what Enrique's saying.
Mhm.
We're not asking for them to do what they did to us. They framed us for crimes. We know what they did.
Mhm.
We want them just held accountable for the things that they actually did. This is not about like playing their games. We just want justice, real justice.
Yeah. The real conspirators.
Yeah,
Quite
exactly.
frankly, justice should mean reparations for you guys in every single January 6th, and I'm waiting for you guys to actually do something about that.
We're going to sue them.
Yeah.
We're gonna see
And
the
you know
balls
what I'm
off.
going to do?
Class action, right?
Class
Like,
action.
Well-
all you guys are getting together and.
Well, there is a couple class actions that are coming, but I think a lot of the attorneys, what they're trying to do is sue individually, right? Because it's more effective. Maybe a class action's gonna happen. Maybe we join it, or
Are you guys
maybe
going
not.
after the Department of Justice, or are you guys going
That is
after
just-
AUSAs and agents?
That is one step. We'll be announcing in the next week.
Okay. fair.
We'll be announcing in the next week exactly, but it is the Department of Justice. It might be the FBI. It might be the Bureau of Prisons. Again, it's violation of civil rights. So I think we're gonna win this, and when we win this, I'm gonna spend a little bit of that money frivolously, right? Because what I want to do is I
Well,
want to
yeah, I
get.
mean, 3 years of your life was taken from you.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy like a fucking cheetah with like a gold leash.
Yeah.
You know, just to, because what they did to us, I'm really not gonna do that. But what they did to us was wrong.
Yeah.
And it's not just reparations; it's payback.
Yeah.
You know, and it's justified payback because we did not do anything wrong. The J6ers did nothing wrong. The Proud Boys did nothing wrong, and the 3 men that are sitting right here did nothing wrong.
So, take me through what happened for you on that day. So you weren't even there.
I wasn't there.
You're in Baltimore. You
I'm
said?
in Baltimore in the hotel. They take my phone from me. Right.
What day was this?
This
Like,
was
is
on.
also in
this is,
February.
I get released in January 5th. I get bonded out
'cause
January
you,
5th.
yes, because you got arrested
I got
by.
arrested.
What, did you get arrested by Metro PD?
Metropolitan
because of
Police
BLM
Department.
stuff.
Because of BLM.
Misdemeanor charge, I'm guessing.
stuff.
Probably.
It's a misdemeanor charge. Yes.
Okay, so you get out.
They
January
also
5th.
give me a felony because I had a high capacity magazine, which is a 30-round mag. On my online store, I do like custom laser engraving. So I
Gotcha.
was bringing them to somebody. I didn't know it was illegal,
Okay.
but it didn't matter because the judge didn't ban me from DC for the mags.
Yeah.
She banned me in DC because she says that there's a whole bunch of Black Lives Matter banner and they're all in danger because of me.
So
she might be right.
Okay.
But
So you get
I get
January
bond.
5th, you get bond. You get out. Okay.
I get out. I'm automatically ordered to leave the district.
Okay.
But they keep my phone, which is weird for these stupid charges. They keep my phone.
Yeah,
And I'm going to tell you
misdemeanor.
why later.
Yep.
So I go, you know what? I got to leave. Let's go to Baltimore. These guys can go ahead and meet me up in Baltimore and party on January 6th at night, or I'll meet them in Virginia. So no big deal. So I go to Baltimore. I stay overnight. I don't have a phone. I have no way of communicating with them, right? Because I don't care to communicate with them. They're going to go have fun at the Trump speech. I'm going to take a very nice day to relax that I didn't have any during that election season because we're flying all over the place. So I was actually going to enjoy the day, and I did. You know, I woke up in the morning. I skateboarded to the corner store. I got some breakfast. I'm like, well, I need a phone. I skateboarded to Walgreens. I got a phone. I didn't activate it. I got on Wi-Fi. But by the time I come back, guess what happened? The Capitol was breached. So I find out.
This is January 6th now.
I probably found out later than you did.
Yeah.
Right? Because I have no communication. I finally get to the hotel room. I turn on the TV. I'm like, what's this? So I'm watching this on TV. I celebrated what happened on my social media platforms, like most of America did. Right? I'm guilty of that. If that's a crime, I'm guilty of that. And, you know, at night I was kind of like, well, fuck, I'm happy I wasn't there because then, you know what? They'd arrest me for the charge of trespassing.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's the thing that I thought was the highest thing that was going to happen. You get arrested for fucking trespassing.
$50 citation.
Yep.
So these guys start getting picked up, right? On February 12th, the FBI has a press conference. This isn't a fucking conspiracy theory. You guys can look it up right on YouTube right now. February 12th, January 6th, FBI press conference.
Okay.
So they said, they were asked the question, what was it that you did to prevent January 6th? And the first thing that they said is, we arrested Enrique Tarrio on January 4th, right? They didn't arrest me. It was Metropolitan Police Department.
Yeah.
They ordered the Metropolitan Police Department to arrest me for the misdemeanor so they could keep me out of the loop in January 6th. I'm going to tell you this right now. If I was on the ground on January 6th, we wouldn't have gone into the Capitol. Not because I'm smarter than anybody or anything. I had speaking engagements on the opposite side of the Capitol, over there by the Washington Monument. So we wouldn't even been close, right? Obviously, since I wasn't there, you know, there was nothing to do, and these guys wanted to go see the Capitol. And that was where the rally was supposed to be. The president said it. We're going to rally in front of the Capitol, right? And that's, you know, it was supposed to be a regular rally. I think it was a riot gone wrong, like a protest gone wrong, you know, and I said it that same day. You know, if you trespassed, you know, you're going to get fucked. You're going to get trespassing charged. If you put your hands on a cop, you're fucked. You're going to get charged with, but that's not what happened in these cases. They're doing the 1512. They use the 1512, which is a 20-year felony, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not just like a regular
financial
5
charge.
Yeah, a financial charge that's 20-year felony, right? So this is what
Bernie
they
Madoff?
use.
Did they use that against Bernie Madoff?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's possible.
Very possible, though.
Okay.
A lot of people get hit with that.
And
Well,
here's
can you
another
fact
thing
check
people
for us
don't
real quick?
understand too is the enhancements that they went wild.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up.
The
Yeah.
we got a terrorism enhancement for touching a fence.
For touching a fence.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they increased us from, I think it was like 14 years
You
to
go
33.
from category 1 all the way to category 6 and all the way down. They were trying to give us life.
This doesn't even seem like America. What
It's-
they did to you
It wasn't.
guys.
It wasn't.
It
It's
doesn't
not
seem
America.
like America.
No.
It's not America.
Yeah.
That's not what this is. It's not like I'm Cuban. My family came from Cuba. They literally left the island
Fuck Fidel
because
Castro.
one of my family members, right, at the order of Che Guevara, wanted him to give up his piece of property so they could use it as a forward operating base. And when my family members said no, Che Guevara gave the order to put all the males, all the adult males that lived in the house, on their knees, tied their hands behind their back, and shot them in the back of the head. That's what these people want to do to us. They can't do it because it's too much, right? So the next step is just lock them in a cage, throw away the key. 22 years is a fucking life sentence.
Yeah, pretty much. So, okay. So the FBI does this press conference. You're there watching it. And
I'm
they said-
watching it.
So you must have been like, oh, shit. So they arrested you basically on a misdemeanor charge as a guise to get access to your phone and keep you away from
DC.
Gotcha.
So then about a year later, right, they went to the grand jury multiple times and they couldn't get an indictment. And you know, the saying goes, they could indict a ham sandwich.
Of course.
Yeah.
So they couldn't get an indictment. So they finally unlocked my phone. right? They sent it to Israel to this company called Celebrite.
Yes.
And they-
Celebrate. Yep.
So they unlocked the phone,
Mhm.
and
It was an iPhone or?
it was an iPhone.
Yeah.
That's why it took so long.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah.
So they went ahead and they found this document on my phone.
You're not under arrest at this point, right? You're like the feds
No.
didn't pick you up yet, right?
I'm just talking about their process to get.
Yeah, this is what they did, but you
the
hadn't been
intent.
arrested yet.
No.
Okay.
I didn't get arrested a year and 2 months later on March 8th of 2022.
Okay, but
So-
meanwhile, all your buddies, the Proud Boys, are getting
Everybody's
arrested.
there. I'm like fucking putting rallies together. I'm fucking doing fucking T-shirts. I'm
Yeah.
doing their fundraisers. I'm doing all that shit.
How many guys had been arrested at this point when you were the last one they got, probably, right?
No, there was more people after me, but I was one of the latecomers.
Okay,
Right.
So sorry, you were saying about
so
the phone.
the document that they find is called this. It's a document called 1776 returns, and it's actually a very interesting document. The actual document is not like it's not bad or anything. It's like how to stage a sit-in
Yeah.
at a government building, right?
Yep.
Terrorism.
Yeah, terrorism. So by that alone, I should have been exonerated because there's no fucking way in the world if I tell this man right here, if you look at his size, if I tell that man right here, and there's a whole bunch of them bigger than him in the group, and I tell them that we're going to go into a building and we're going to stage a sit-in, we're going to lock arms, and we're going to wait till cops pull
Well, that's
us
a
out.
form of peaceful protest, though.
They would kick me out.
Yeah.
That is a form of
It's a
peaceful
form of
protest,
peaceful
but you're
protest.
not going to find a bunch of Proud Boys doing that cringe ass shit.
Yeah.
It's just not happening.
yeah.
So-
Sorry.
So they present
Can't
this
do
to the jury, the grand jury. They're like, look what we found on his phone.
Okay,
This
it's what
document,
they used to get you indicted. Okay.
right? The funny part is they knew a very important detail about that document that they did not disclose that to the jury. That document was never opened by me. It was sent to me on Telegram, which at the very moment that my phone was frozen in time, which was January 4th,
Yeah.
I had 1.2 million unread messages on my Telegram alone. So it was sent to my Telegram. I never opened it, never saw it. They knew that. They actually testified. The forensics expert for the FBI testified to that. So already the grand jury indictment was done, picked up illegally.
Yeah. And just so the audience understands, guys, with the grand jury, it's just them presenting their case for probable cause.
There's no defense.
Yeah,
There's no defense at all. It's the agent and the AUSA in there talking to a grand jury. We want probable cause. This is what we found. It's not a real jury, and the defense can't do anything. Like this is how they get charged. So
Yeah.
they use that as evidence to indict you.
Yes. They use that. That's the only piece of evidence that they used to indict me.
Oh, really?
That is the only piece of evidence that they used to indict me. Other than that, there was nothing.
Unbelievable.
Fuck.
They couldn't find. They couldn't find a single
And the
fucking
agent
piece of
testified
evidence.
at grand jury that you didn't open it, and they still gave a true bill of indictment.
No.
Okay.
They didn't tell the grand jury that.
Of course,
Whether
okay. That's at your trial.
This was on his phone.
Yeah.
This document was on his phone.
So
And
This came out at
insinuation.
trial.
so you
then.
have to indict this person, and they did.
Okay. So at trial is when that agent finally came out and said he never opened
He
it.
never opened it. Their forensics expert said. So you're already arrested me under false pretenses. And then before trial, they went ahead and they gave me a sweetheart deal. They offered me a sweetheart deal
Okay.
too.
What'd they offer you?
They offered me if I turned on the well, wait, before I tell you that. They offered me that they would set me up for bail the following week because it has to go through the judge and the judge has to approve it. In this case, the judge would have approved it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be released because I was in custody already at that point. I think I was in custody for about like a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I would be released the following week and I wouldn't do a single day in prison anymore. And all I had to do, and they slid the paper over, all you have to do is confirm that this is a story that happened. Not asking for the truth, not, hey, tell me what happened and we might lessen your time or whatever. No.
Verify a lie.
Verify that this happened. Testify against the president of the 45th president of the United States and the next president of this country. And you won't have to do a day in jail. You can go out next week and you could be with your family and everything will be over. Everything's peachy.
So let me make sure I have this right. So they gave you the plea agreement basically was confirm the statement of facts, right?
Yeah,
that
yes.
they presented.
Yes.
And then be a government witness against Donald Trump. Let me guess. An insurrection case, Jack Smith?
An insurrection case, yes.
Now, at this point, because
So they were mad,
if
yeah.
I'm not mistaken, that insurrection case by Jack Smith was
Well-
the last
well-
indictment. Had they indicted Trump for that yet?
They hadn't indicted Trump for that yet. So it wasn't Jack Smith's team. It was another team of attorneys that was also present, right? AUSAs present.
So let me get. So you were probably so then that deal that they gave you were probably one of the first people in America to know that they were going to indict the president for January 6th.
I pretty much after that encounter, I knew that it was inevitable.
Gotcha.
Right.
Wow.
I knew it was inevitable. So I told them to go fuck themselves. I told them to kick rocks. And because of that is why I got 22 years.
Wow.
Yeah, you really undermined their case against Trump.
Yeah.
Big time.
We
Yeah,
wore
I
them
mean,
the
that's
hell
crazy.
out.
Because if you read the indictment,
That's awesome, though.
if you read the Jack Smith indictment, right? If you read the Jack Smith indictment,
I read it. It was defrauding the United States government.
They technically didn't. They didn't indict him for January 6th.
Yeah.
Right. What they indicted him for was documents. That's why they used the 1512, altering documents, everything leading up from the election all the way to January 6th. So it wasn't about what the insurrection, right? It was about the documents, because they wanted a nice and tidy indictment for a sitting president, which it was sloppy as shit anyways. But it's better than saying, well, he caused the insurrection and he's responsible, because that's a bridge too far. They actually had to try to make it believable, and it wasn't believable at all.
Yeah.
But if I would have turned on the president, right, I'd be home free.
Wow.
And Kamala Harris would probably be.
We were the bridge
the
that they
president of the
needed, I
United
think,
States.
to prove.
So did you also get this plea deal as well?
No, like I
to go against
said,
the president? Okay.
no interaction, no questions, nothing.
So after the day you got arrested, they didn't even Mirandize you. They didn't ask you any questions.
They came to the number one.
Yeah.
Because in my head, I'm thinking like you're a higher up guy. Like no one tried to interview you at all. None of the FBI agents. They just took you right to jail.
Yep, they took me right to jail, and I found out what my charges were, and I was super surprised about that. And
you know what that tells me? That tells me it was probably hostage rescue team that went to go, just from like you're saying the way they did it. One of their special response teams went to go arrest you, and then the case agent wasn't there on site. That's why they didn't ask you questions.
Maybe, I don't know.
That's the only thing because in my head I'm like, wait, why would it? Because according to them in the indictment, you'd be you're number one in the indictment.
Yeah, at the time.
I'm shocked no one would try to ask you questions.
Oh,
I think what it was is because I had I'm kind of a ghost on the Telegram. There's really no evidence against me at all. I went in through the entrance where police officers opened the door.
Gotcha.
So I'm I would argue that my case, aside from his, because he wasn't there, is probably one of the best presentable because it's so extreme. That's what I was charged with, and I did so little.
Yeah.
And so I think that they just wanted to bury me and keep me quiet, and they didn't want us collaborating together.
Of course.
So they just,
So, okay, so they give you the sweetheart deal, and you said like 23, 24?
22 years.
No, I mean like in year
the
20.
year, I believe, is at the end of
23?
23 or 20? No, 22, at the end of 22.
That makes
That was
sense.
before Jack Smith was appointed. They were already looking in that direction. But we all knew that. If you jump back on a time machine, everybody was saying it. The DOJ is attempting to.
Yeah. Had they raided Mar-a-Lago yet at this point?
No, they hadn't raided Mar-a-Lago.
Okay, this is before everything.
This is before everything.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so this all right. This makes sense then.
So
because they raided Mar-a-Lago, if I'm not mistaken, summer of 22.
Sounds about right.
Right?
Summer of 23,
maybe?
No,
22?
no,
I think it was
22. Summer of 22
Summer of 22,
because
they
we
raided
had just
Mar-a-Lago.
finished.
Yeah.
We had just finished trial. We were in Lewisburg,
Mo, can you fact check it
Pennsylvania.
for me? I think it's August of 22, and then I remember they raided the house, and then a couple months later, then they indicted him for the fraud document case, the document case.
Yes.
Right.
And then he had already been under charges for New York for the false document case.
Yes.
So first New York indicted him.
I think the first thing was Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
And then
But the
the
state
first
got him
indictment.
first. The state, I remember this.
Yeah.
Alvin Bragg,
Yeah,
wanted,
Alvin Bragg.
but who cares? That was a bullshit case. So they indicted him out of the state of New York. Then the Mar-a-Lago raid. Then the document case, the classified document case.
Yeah.
That makes sense now. So they had this all ready to go from the beginning.
Of course.
The raids, because the fact that they went to you saying, "Hey, we want you to testify against them for the insurrection case."
Yes.
Wow.
Well, can you think about this for a second?
That's
if
wild.
Enrique had signed that piece of paper and testified against Trump, that would have completely changed the entire narrative.
Yeah.
And it
I
wasn't.
mean, this was like a really heroic act. I think people
that's
people
huge.
need to know about this. Like this is.
I'm glad that we're breaking it here.
I also want to be clear, like the entire, and obviously I said it, but I want to be clear about it. The entire narrative of
August
the
8th,
story.
2022 was when they raided Mar-a-Lago.
August 8th. Yep, you're right. The entire story that they made up was something out of a fucking like space fiction. That's how outrageous it was. Right? So
I don't want to give them too much credit though. I mean, like they did a great job, but we wore them the hell
Oh
out.
yeah, we wore them down.
I mean, they did throw us under the bus, but we can. I mean, we tested them every single. Just ask the marshals if we could get a marshal on here to just explain the wear and tear that we put on.
I got a
them.
marshal we could bring on here. No, he'll never.
Some of the
show.
stories.
He'll
I mean, this guy is. Each individual marshal by the end, their spirit had to be just.
Did we not have a lot of like?
Well, we had great.
Did we have a lot of fun?
We had a lot of fun. I mean, every time getting your chains on, chains off. You know, there was piss.
We were
breaks,
together
there
for
was-
a long time. All five of us, all the
Mhm.
5 brothers, co-defendants. I'm like institutionalized, so I want to say co-defendants.
Yeah.
But all 5 of us were together the entire ride.
But you know what was
Almost
the
the
funnest
entire
part though is after trial we went to Lewisburg for a little bit, but getting to the DC gulag.
Oh,
right?
that was fun.
That was probably my
you see the
funnest
DC
time
gulag?
because
I didn't go in there, but I met guys at Fort Dix who had spent some time there.
Oh, man,
was
it was
terrible,
great.
Terrible.
We had our own block.
the great part about it
because you
was
guys all
like
got hit with the sedition, so they put y'all together.
Yeah, so it was cool
With
to be
all
with
the
all
other
the
January
capital.
sixth.
It was 5 guys that got hit with the sedition.
It was 5 of us, and
Oathkeepers.
then I think another 7 for the Oathkeepers,
Yeah.
which is another group.
Yeah.
Um,
so
but when we're in there, it's a whole block. So like,
it's like
we
30
ran that
years.
shit.
What is
35.
your
we ran that shit.
What is the
dude.
Proud Boys' relationship with the Oath Keepers and 3 Percenters?
So to tell you, my relationship with the leader of the Oath Keepers is Stuart Rhodes. Before January 6th, me and Stuart Rhodes did not get along at all. To the point where, like at my local chapter, because although I was the chairman of the Proud Boys, I didn't have executive privilege over the guys. But my local chapter, we cut off any recruiting from the Oath Keepers. We wanted no recruiting, and it was just like on a personal level, personal differences between me and Stuart. After January 6th, that's my brother. We went through hell together. I actually was with Stuart now in DC. They're 2 very different groups, right? So they're more of like an organization / militia, where the Proud Boys is more. People think that we're like a political movement, and we're not. We're more like a cultural movement, right? Like we espouse these views that are just like these pro-America, First
Nuclear
Amendment,
family.
Second Amendment,
Yeah.
pro-family, those views. So it's more of a cultural movement than it is political. Like
Gotcha.
automatically people are like, oh, well, there are a bunch of like Republicans and stuff like that. No, there's a wide array of views within the Proud Boys.
Yeah.
It's the only goal for us is to make better men. And then it all starts locally. You know, it all starts locally. For me, it starts locally, and also for him, starts locally here in Miami. My Villain City chapter is my everything. You know, his Vice City chapter here in Miami is his everything. You know, so that's how we make better men. You start at home.
Of course.
It's like a
You work your way
fraternity
out.
of sorts, right?
Yeah.
So you guys go to trial together. They
Yes.
have you guys all as co-defendants. What was that like, man? Because no one ever really goes up. I'm shocked that all of you guys went to trial. Most people don't do it. You know what I mean? Because obviously you're looking at a lot of time. You had the sweetheart deal. You turn it down. You don't want to testify against Donald Trump, which is obviously very admirable. Most people would have taken that deal in a second to be out of jail in a week. So take me through that going to trial, man. That must have been nerve-wracking. And you guys are held in jail the entire time. No bond, no bail, nothing.
It's, you know what? Like, it's not a 1 or 0 thing. It was a roller coaster of emotions. Like, some days were great. You know, some days we thought we were going to win. We were on top of the world. You know, other days it's like, we have no fucking chance. We're going to be in prison the rest of our lives. But I can't say that it would have been really tough for me to do this alone.
Yeah.
And doing it with my 4 brothers and my family support and their family support, like, we knew we had a team. Like, we literally built like the Avengers, right? And we put it together, and that's what got us through this whole thing.
And I'm sure they tried to get you to testify against other guys in the Proud Boys, or they tried to turn you.
No, they didn't care. They didn't care.
They only
about that.
cared about-
with me. They didn't
only cared
care
about
about
Trump.
none of that shit. They cared about Trump. That's it.
Wow. Okay.
That's all they cared about.
Yeah,
Because they didn't have an in to get Trump for the events of January 6th, like what happened at the Capitol that day. They didn't have an in. With me, they created an in.
Yeah.
They swerved it, they lied, and they're like, this is a story.
Yeah. So they gave in that statement of facts, what did they want you to say? Like that Donald Trump put you up to it.
It has a
and-
protective order, and I'm hoping it gets lifted, I think next week, and I'll be able to say
Fair.
exactly
Okay.
what happened.
You can
but
come back after that, right?
Yeah. I'd love
I live right down the
let's have
street
him-
from
let's
I'd
have
them.
him
love
back.
for the American public to
Yeah.
see what they tried to do, because just so the audience knows, right? They always give you, when you plead guilty, right? They tell you to plead guilty, and then they give you a statement of fact, right? Like, this is what you're pleading guilty to. So the fact that they wanted you to plead guilty to that, and I'm sure that statement of fact would have been something where, I'm assuming here, I don't know what it is, but I'm just gonna speculate. That statement of fact probably has something along the lines of Donald Trump put you up to do this, blah blah blah, so they can use that against him in the indictment, and then they would have a witness against him.
I can't confirm or deny.
Fair enough.
You need to confirm it.
Fair enough.
Sure.
But the
Yeah.
fact that the U.S. government did that is absolutely crazy, and the fact that they planned to sell so long, since 22, is wild to me.
If this man didn't have morals, Donald Trump's not president.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting out of
That's
this.
what I'm getting out of it too.
Yeah.
What they did to us, right? And we had a lot of time to think, right?
I'm sure, yeah.
What they did to us, they didn't learn how to do it. It's not like they like, hey, let's figure out how to indict these people. This is something that they've learned how to do over the years.
Yeah.
Right?
Unprecedented case.
They do it with, and you're familiar, obviously you said conspiracy.
Yeah.
Like drug conspiracies, ghost dope.
Yeah.
Dope that doesn't
That's a
even
huge one.
exist.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I call somebody and I'm like, yeah, hey, you know what? Let me get 2 million kilos. I know that's impossible, but they'll fucking hit you with 2 million kilos. You know, the dope never has to exist. The money never has to exchange hands. The call could be made, and you jump in the car, you turn the key, and that is the action towards the conspiracy.
It's overt act. Yep.
So this isn't a new thing, and we've seen this not just on like drug cases, just things like that. We've seen this with political movements before, movements that I don't agree with. You know, we've seen this with left-wing groups. We've seen it with right-wing groups. So with us, it wasn't like they invented a new way.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
I think it was a very educational for me. I know for everybody else too, those involved, to go and speak to just regular inmates about like what he just mentioned, ghost guns. A lot of people are in for decades and decades, sometimes life, for the probable cause, what he was talking about earlier with the grand jury, and also reasonable doubt, I think are two things that people really need to start honing in on and focusing on. And I think hopefully with this new administration, we can start really honing in on that, because there's just too much gray area that they offer the jury to make these hardline decisions on, oh, he's guilty. However, I have a bias and I don't like these guys, so I'm going to do the community, a service by putting them in prison, even though there's no real evidence. I don't really like them. I think reasonable doubt has to come into play as far as the judge and his, being an arbiter of truth in the law, and ensuring that our rights are being, represented properly. I think the reasonable doubt and probable cause has to play more of a standard in our law.
Yeah, this is scary.
yeah.
What you guys are telling me right now is scary, and everyone watching this should be scared out their freaking minds.
Yeah, the standard
You're
has
an
been set
American
is
citizen. They
is-
can't do this to you.
Well,
Obviously they can't.
5 guilty, horrible rapist murderers need to be set free before one innocent man is found guilty. Okay, that's the standard.
Yeah.
All right, and so we need to understand, like, well, that's crazy. It's like, yeah, it's supposed to be crazy. Like, you shouldn't just easily be able to send somebody to prison who's innocent. It needs to be, the standard is, before we ever do that, we let 5 guilty men go free, because that's how serious this is. We can't set a standard where this is something that can happen so easily.
Let me ask a question, because these guys in the chat are a little bit wild.
I know exactly.
They've been calling me a Mossad agent for years.
Oh, yeah.
They're calling you an
Are
informant.
you?
Come on now. No,
kidding,
let
I'm
me just
kidding.
say that abundantly. No.
Alright.
Now they're calling you an informant.
So let me tell you.
What do you have to say to people
Let
like
me
that?
tell you, because I'm watching it scroll over there, and I was a DoD contractor for 12 years. In 2013, I caught a case, right? And I've been very clear about this even before any of this. In 2013, yes, I cooperated with the federal government in a case, right?
What they charge you with?
At that time, it was like rebranding and relabeling the diabetic test strips. It was like a
Oh shit! What the hell?
yeah. It's a weird. It's like this weird. It's this weird trial. So
Like just general fraud, I guess. Maybe?
yeah. So there was this sex trafficking ring that was coming in from Mexico.
Okay.
And what they did is they operated different little businesses here in the city, right? So we took that down, right? And that's been the story, right, with some of these people. And
So they call you Fed for stopping a sex trafficking ring.
yeah, exactly. So obviously, but there's always haters, because I also
course,
seen
yeah.
I seen people talk about Gary like
Yeah,
Jew Gary Mossad.
I mean, I've seen
I'm
it.
calling
It's-
you out.
it's
And if you're not
nonstop.
doing something,
Yeah, I believe in freedom of speech, so I let the chat go crazy.
Just let it go, yeah.
And that's where I'm at with it. You know,
F you too, chat.
and then like there's a lot of people too, like, and I want to be clear, because I've also seen that people are putting fake Proud Boy websites on there. And we've had this recent problem with these Proud Boys. When you're an organization that's lasted 8 years, you tend to kick out a lot of guys, and those guys have grievances for being kicked out, right? When you kick out enough guys, they form a clique,
Of course.
and they want to be Proud Boys. I get it. It's very flattering, but it's also dangerous too, because there are those people that we've kicked out because they are literal feds, right? Because we got to see the lists and things like that.
Oh, yeah, because you guys got Discovery.
We get to get discovery. Also, it's protective order, but you know, we've kicked out a lot of people.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is that they click up with these feds, right? And then they show up. I'm going to give you the prime example. So before January 20th, before the inauguration, I told the Proud Boys, I go, please, guys, do not go out in the streets. Do not march in the streets, right? Because you're risking, you know, us getting a pardon, right? We don't want to make any noise right now. There's no
course,
Antifa in the streets. There's no BLM in the streets. Why are you going to go in the streets?
Yeah.
So everybody contacted each other. We're like, hey, don't worry about that shit. We'll never show up. Guess what happens on January 20th? A group of people in black and yellow show up to DC, right? They start making fucking noise, and it's exactly what the organization didn't want, right? These are people that aren't Proud Boys. These are people that I've seen the video. There's 2 federal informants inside the actual crowd, and federal informants not from like 2013, like my case was, from people that threw people January 6ers under the bus,
Gotcha.
right? And they're in this crowd. Let it be known, and let me be very clear. If you see a group of Proud Boys, ask them what chapter they're in, right? And if we have a website, and we've had a website since 2016, it's called proudboysusa.com. You go to where it says chapters, right? And you go down that chapter list. If those people that are in front of you aren't saying that they're part of the local chapter of where you're at, be very careful with them. Be very careful with them, because it might be Antifa, right? It might be these BLM little thugs. It might be feds. It could be somebody else, but it's definitely not us. Okay? In the city of Miami, there's only 2 chapters. In South Florida, there's only 2 chapters. I saw what they said.
Villain
South,
City and
South
Vice
Florida
City,
Proud
right?
Boys.
Yeah.
Villain City, which is my chapter. Vice City, which is his chapter. We have Broward, and we have West Palm Beach.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I'll speak to that too. I
Because
spent a lot of time.
it's a big problem that we have. I'm sorry to
I'm
cut you
sure.
off.
But
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time with
False
Enrique.
flags.
Yes.
I mean, this topic, you know, especially like if anybody knows prison politics, you understand this topic is very difficult, especially if you're white boy politics.
Yeah.
Prison is very, very fierce. And so, you know, I've had to deal with this, like the informant thing, like he's talked about, as on a personal level, as everybody else. And some guys, you know, that's where they cut ties with Enrique, and that's totally fair. But as an organization, this is something I got an 18-year sentence for, you know, and I took it on the chin. And before that, I was out on the streets, you know, fighting Antifa, protecting people, and being called a terrorist and a Nazi for it.
I mean, the fact that you guys got so much time shows that you didn't talk.
And another
like,
thing,
people are
right.
stupid. Like the fact that, like,
Yeah.
even me, someone that used to do this job, like, you know, not FBI, fuck them, but like I know, I can tell when someone talk. If you're getting 22 years or 18 years, dude,
Yeah.
you didn't cooperate clearly, and you guys went to trial.
You went to
You don't
trial.
go to trial. If you go to trial, that means by definition you didn't cooperate.
And not only that, it comes out in trial.
Yeah, it
right.
does.
Like
Yeah.
that's not
They
a
wouldn't
secret.
have put him in the same room as us
Yeah.
if he was cooperating.
Yep.
And if you are cooperating, like, you know, we have an individual. He has an interesting beard, one might say.
Yeah, we'll say that.
And
And then some of them,
he
some
didn't
of them,
spend a day in prison, from what I understand, and he got pardoned. So
Some of
and
them-
he would testified against us for
Why
like
didn't
2
you
weeks.
get a pardon, Ethan?
Oh, well, I'll go into that. My theory is, because Trump does everything.
You got a commutation. Basically, sentence you
He
time
could
served.
still fight the case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, my
I can't.
theory is because our case was so rich in Brady violations and constitutional violations that the Trump administration wants to keep our case open because, like I said, if you get pardoned, your discovery gets sealed, right? So they pardoned him because he wasn't there, right?
Sorry.
And but they didn't pardon the other Proud Boy. Well, I think Dom's good, right?
Dom has not been pardoned
So it's
yet.
me, Joe Biggs, and Zachary Real.
If the DOJ throws out their case, they won't need a fucking pardon.
Right.
Because
And
it'll
that's
throw
what,
out
that's what we
everybody's
think is going to
case.
happen. I think the case is just going to get thrown out like they never happened. But the DOJ and the Trump administration still needs evidence to use during this investigation against the DOJ, I believe.
And I think that
And
stuff
then-
is coming. That's coming. Those
So
investigations
so
definitely
are
you
coming.
think they purposely kept so some of you guys, they gave you guys commutations to avoid the case not being able to have access to discovery for their investigation.
Right.
Okay. And
That's
a
the
commutation,
theory.
just so the audience understands, basically, time served essentially almost. You still got a probation officer?
I did have probation, and it was so severe. It was so strict. I couldn't even have an Xbox. I couldn't have any online presence. I couldn't associate with Proud Boys. I couldn't even listen or read news that it got to the point where it's like I couldn't even be in support of the Second Amendment because I was advocating for force against the government.
Wow.
And so, but in the
country
same
is this?
day,
What the
I'm
fuck?
talking to my PO, and he's like, "Dude, I don't know what the hell
He
this
was
is."
confused, like, what is
He
this?
gets a call from his supervisor
Yep.
while I'm in there taking a piss test,
Yep.
and he's like, "Hang on, man. You're good. You're good." I'm like, "What do you mean I'm good? Did I get pardoned?" He's like, "No, well, you didn't get pardoned, but your probation is nil as of
Okay.
right now." And so I'm
Good.
like, "Okay." And I just left. I got my stuff out of Seattle and moved to freaking Miami because there's also
Because you couldn't
rumor.
leave, you were probably on strict. Yeah, 'cause
It was
you
bad.
couldn't carry a gun, like none of
Yeah.
that stuff. Did they restore your Second Amendment privilege? Or
No. So yeah.
I mean, there's
I'm taking it one day at a time.
Yeah,
You know what
I think it's going to
understand.
happen. I think it's going to
I'm
happen.
not trying to
so.
press it. Of course, I'd like for all this to get kicked out, and I know Trump's working hard. He's getting a lot done, and I'm going to be patient and wait on his timeline because I know he's doing everything for a reason.
okay,
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah. And, I'm watching the chat, and there's people calling you a Fed now.
Oh
you
yeah.
know? So, I mean, this, and it's crazy because
I don't know
some
what
of
you
those,
guys-
But you-
some of those same people that are talking.
I have my indictment tattooed on me. For,
Yeah.
You know
There
what I
you
mean?
go.
Who else does that?
Yeah, man. Like, I mean, the fact
This
that
is all
22
prison
years,
ink, by the
18
way.
years, dude, you don't get that if you cooperate.
If
man.
these people
Yeah.
see in the streets, they're gonna ask for pictures. I promise you.
Oh no, yeah, definitely.
Well, you
some of
probably
those
don't want to
people
run
have
into me in the streets
pictures.
if you're calling me a Fed.
Some of those people have asked for pictures, but regardless
they're
of the fact,
they're brave behind the chat because
course.
there's like
Yeah.
no name,
These guys are
no
patriots,
picture.
man.
one of
Yeah.
them, I think, it says like Oaks Report or something. He turned into a jailhouse snitch, right? So like, even if they didn't snitch outside, they snitched inside, right? So
Gross.
like this whole thing is they're calling you a snitch now. That beat is fucking going
Yeah,
ham.
well,
But I mean,
Everybody
it's
is
the
a
internet
snitch.
and it's freedom of speech, and I get it, and I actually thank you for having, it showing what freedom of speech is.
Oh, yeah,
because
absolutely.
look,
Yeah.
when we had that press conference the other day, when these women were screaming at us, I was like, this is America.
Yep.
Right.
It actually makes for
This
good
is what
content
America
for
is.
real.
Yep.
You know, seeing the other side and being able to talk to them, it allows us to show how ridiculous the other side
Oh,
is.
yeah.
So,
And I think they're-
appreciate it.
And guys, like the video. I'll read the chats after at the end here. But yeah, I like the video, guys. I didn't want to interrupt the interview because obviously this is historic. This is very important. Sorry, Pat. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, I mean, the way that everything is going right now, like they're in a death spiral. The left is in a complete death spiral
Oh,
right
yeah.
now. And they're just eating themselves. They're becoming more
Biden
and more.
lost his clearance.
Yeah.
Like, he lost his, he can't even be read into anything going on with national security. It's
Of
crazy.
course.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Hilarious.
I don't even want to stop them. Like, just keep saying what you're saying. Keep doing what you're doing because they're only alienating more people and they only give us more political capital to actually achieve the reforms in this country that we have to achieve.
Yeah. No, man. I mean, this is crazy. I'm glad I was able to talk to you guys and kind of
Yeah.
get your guys's take on what's going on here, because this is a topic that obviously a lot of people on the right are like, this is bullshit. These guys are political prisoners. Then you got people on the left that are like, these guys are insurrectionists. They're committing treason against their country. And I think, and I'm glad that we talked about the Mike Pence angle, because that's something that a lot of Americans don't understand. How Mike Pence, I would argue, is like one of the the problems in this situation where
Yeah.
he had an ability, he had a duty to, you know, you don't have to stop what's going on, but at least like slow it down so we can have a proper investigation. Because, dude,
course.
people weren't outraged for no reason. I mean, when the majority of the country thinks that the election wasn't fair,
Right.
Yeah.
come on, man.
I mean, the whole thing really is a big projection. Like they accuse us of overthrowing the U.S. government. They overthrow the U.S. government,
Yeah.
and they accuse them of having a conspiracy. They're the ones who had a conspiracy, and all this stuff is going to get dug out over the coming months and years.
Yep.
I have no doubt about that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm hoping, you know, Kash Patel and Bongino, right, the 1 and 2 over at the FBI, they help that agency because obviously, you know, we call them famous but incompetent for a reason, and they've done a lot of stupid shit. And the fact that they expended almost 50% of the workforce to go after guys from the January 6th event when there's terrorists, organized crime, sex trafficking rings, drugs, etc. You know, what an agency to fall from grace, man. You know, it's fucking terrible.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's so much shit to like worry about, and they use this as political pawns.
Of course.
Yes.
They use
Yeah.
this in fundraising campaigns. They use the 5 of us in congressional fundraising campaigns. They're like, oh, we're good. You know, these are the terrorists, and this is what we're going to fight. So they used this for that. They thought that they had it figured out. They thought that the 2024 election was in the bag, that Trump was down, that Trump was weak.
Try to go after
Right?
him too. It's crazy.
He was
went after
bidding
you
his
guys,
time.
went after him. Like,
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Man.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
And they did. And they deserve to be in prison.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really, those people that did this to us deserve to
well,
be in
everyone
prison.
left. Jack Smith resigned. Chris Wray left the FBI. Everyone that was, I mean, I know that they're launching investigations into the agents and the AUSAs that were instrumental in this stuff. The law firm that was involved helping out Jack Smith that worked pro bono on this shit.
Yep.
They're,
Just yesterday, executive
just yesterday
order.
signed an executive order against this. So, you know, the tides are turning, man, and
Yeah.
it's great to see. Like I said, it's this is preposterous, man. But yeah, guys, I want to get you guys the last word. You know, what are your guys' final thoughts on it? You know, where can the people find you, etc. We can start. Whoever wants to go first.
Go ahead.
You know, our biggest thing right now is just how do we move forward on a good foot, and I think for me is I focus a lot on the other guys that I met. We have this thing called the Lost Boys. It's something that I kind of created while I was in prison with other January 6ers, just really phenomenal, courageous individuals. I didn't get to meet all the January 6ers, but the ones that really stood out to me. We started this group called the Lost Boys. You're going to be seeing more of that too, and a lot more of their voice, their stories. It's really, really awesome. We're also starting this project called the Proud Coin that we're going to be allocating to January 6ers to help relief because, for example, one of our buddies, Billy Cressman, he's got a custody battle right now for his 10-year-old daughter. He's got, after he
Family
just paid
courts are
rent,
brutal.
he's got no money, no extra car, so he's just trying to get an extra car right now, and that kind of broke my heart hearing that. But there's just handfuls of people like that in this, so that we're really just starting to try and start projects to encourage about entrepreneurship, the future with crypto and investment. I think that's really big. I think that's really important that people start to see that. I think Trump is going to be huge into crypto as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And sorry, what was that? Oh, yeah. You go ahead and plug that one.
All right,
I can't
fine.
see it real.
Yeah. What I can do is, do we got a lot of
Oh, you don't
chats
have
or
your
no?
glasses
'Cause I
on.
know some
Yeah, I
of them
don't
have
have
questions and
glasses
stuff. You'll put them what? You good? Okay. All
Yeah.
right. What about you?
So, I mean, I don't know what the future holds for me. You know, I want to get all like the emotional business ideas out. You know, because when you're in there, all you have is time to think.
Yeah.
So I kind of I just want to have some time to myself, and then kind of just like,
Yeah, you only been out a month, right?
Center my chi,
Yeah.
right, and kind of figure out what the path forward is. Right now, for me, the most important thing is my guys here locally. You know, before that is my God, my family, right, and then like my guys here locally, the J6ers, all the J6ers. Also with the Proud Coin project, what we're trying to do is also give, you know, it's a coin that I want to give education to the J6ers too about crypto and how the currencies work, how you trade, how you make a wallet and things like that. So it's also about education. But again, I'm focused on my stuff here locally, and trying to get like my bearing up. Do I go back into the security business? Do I go back into the contracting business? Do I get into, we're going to start our podcast here soon enough. Do we get back into podcasting?
When are you guys gonna drop it? What's it called?
It's well, it was called the War Boys. We did have a podcast before. It was called the War Boys. It was me, Ethan, and Joe Biggs.
Okay.
Right. Which was a contributor to InfoWars.
Yep.
So that's going to be dropping soon. We're building the studio out right now, and we're trying to pick a good platform.
Are you guys gonna do it here
It's
in
going to
Miami?
be in Miami.
All
Yes.
right, sweet.
Yes.
Okay.
We're right by Tropical Park. I literally could probably look outside that window and see my house. So that's
Yeah.
how close I live. I'm a
You guys
Miami
drop it.
native.
Let me know. We'll help you guys promote it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. And just follow me on Twitter. I'm
Noble One, guys.
At Noble One.
I got all their
NOBLE.
Twitters below, by the way, guys. Pat, Ethan, and Enrique. All their Twitters are gonna be below. Give them a follow.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for
appreciate-
having me too.
appreciate
No,
you
of course,
having
dude.
us.
Of course. When you guys drop your podcast, make sure to let me know, and I'll definitely put it out there for the people.
Appreciate it.
Pat.
Like with all J6ers, I'm in the process of rebuilding my life, rebuilding my business. I mean, taking them to trial, the lost income. I mean, I still was able to for 3 years like run my business, but when you got jail on your horizon, a lot of people aren't necessarily gonna work with you for coaching services. So things were held back a lot. It's probably about $1 million in damages total. I have a wife and two kids, another one on the way. So it's really for me about anchoring back into the business, anchoring back into my family, and taking everything to the next level. I have a book on the J6 experience coming out Memorial Day, Letters from Fort Dix, Reflections of a Political Prisoner. So that's going to be out for pre-sale in April. I wrote most of those letters by hand in prison, sending them out on my email list. Really got amazing response from that. So it's kind of like a combination of like prison stories, J6 stories, all that stuff. So at any rate, that's kind of where things are going for me.
Congratulations.
And you
on the new
can
baby
find me
coming.
on Twitter, Pat
great,
at Pat Stedman.
Yeah. When that book comes out, let me know. Definitely we'll help you promote it. But no, guys, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man. Obviously, you guys are patriots. I think the course of the history of the country was changed because of what you guys did, and thankfully we got Trump in, and he gave you guys the pardon. Hopefully, you guys can repair what the damage they've done, man. It's fucking ridiculous how they weaponize the Justice Department to go after the Patriots. But anyway, guys, we'll be Fresh is gonna go live here soon on Fresh and Fit with Amrat. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast, man. Love y'all, ninjas. We showed all the chats on screen. Obviously, we wanted to focus on the interview. I'll catch you guys back here tomorrow. No, actually, we're going to be traveling to Vegas. So after the Amaranth, we're going to have After Hours, guys. And then we're going to be in Vegas. So love you guys. Be back in After Hours in about 2 hours. Later.
Trump.